It all starts with a gigantic tree that took root in this country. Its name was Yggdrasil. It quickly grew and covered the entire world. Along with it, countless worlds appeared that seemed to be based on games. One of them was called Labyrinth, and people knew it as the game of the gods. The problem is that not everyone could become one of those players. In what looks like a construction mine, people are finishing their shift. Among them, there's a guy there with an orange jacket taking off his helmet, when suddenly someone comes from behind and tells 7017 that he did a good job today. He's got some good stuff to trade and asks if he wants to buy it for very little. There was a data card, and he's sure it's one of the good ones. But in the middle of the old man's explanation, the kid just runs off. The old guy keeps thinking that this bastard thinks too much of himself, but he's just like everyone else in that place. A useless piece of trash abandoned by everyone, just like all those who are there. Beneath the splendor of all the riches that Yggdrasil brought, obviously there are the broken and bankrupt folks. And in the middle of all that, there was a slot machine shop. The protagonist grabs the doorknob and already hears people inside shouting or demanding their points back. He walks up to one of the machines while everyone is yelling, wanting to bet one more time and saying that this time they'll change their life. As he sits in the chair, he welcomes the place where everything can change. The good old random box. Legalized betting for those who want to chase fortune. And there goes the protagonist trying once again to change his life. The rare item available today was a permission to create an account. For the protagonist, this might have been the only chance he'd ever have. On the screen, it asks if he wants to open 10 boxes, and he obviously clicks yes, saying he still has hope. The first box then comes down from the skies, and he receives an incredible N-rank toothbrush. Man, N-rank. He had never even seen a rank that low. At this point we're about to hit, I don't know, the Greek alphabet. He obviously just moves on to the next box. But by the pile of trash building up behind him, you can tell he's not having much luck. Another N-rank, another N-rank. Then comes an R-rank, which is more trash. He's heard that things like SR and SSR exist, but he's been through this countless times and has never seen anything like that. Remembering his mom in the hospital, all he wanted was a chance. That's when something shone in front of his eyes. The machine was glowing like a galaxy. He wondered if that was an SR, but by the light coming from the skies, it looked more like an SSR, which is a super special rare. Now that I think about it, I never even knew what SSR actually stood for. The protagonist is shaking all over, saying to himself he never imagined this day would come. A miracle he could only dream of. Holding the card in his hand, he says that not giving up until now was worth it. Finally, he could be a part of Yggdrasil. This was a permission to create an account. You could become part of the Labyrinth, which was based on countless games. And of course, the only way to access them was by creating an avatar with an account. Even though the avatars were virtual bodies that didn't exist in reality, you could bring items from the Labyrinth into the real world. And those items brought from there were worth a fortune and changed the way society worked. Nowadays, the entire society revolves around Yggdrasil, and the ones running everything are the top gamers. Hee hee. Looks like the game turned, didn't it? A slap in the face of all the moms who say playing 10,000 hours of League of Legends is a waste of time. I have to be ready. If Yggdrasil shows up, who knows? The problem is, in this world, only a few people receive the right to create an account. And now, already running with a smile on his face, he finally became one of the lucky ones. He opens the door excited, saying this is his chance to start everything over. But the moment his face is outside, he takes a club hit right in the mouth. Next second, he's lying on the asphalt. Little by little, he regains consciousness, obviously not understanding what just happened. The boss then asks if this is the guy, and the tattooed one replies yes. The lucky one, who actually, was unlucky, since they saw that he got it. The guy grabs the card and hands it to the boss, who, looking at it, says he never thought there was one of these cards except in those extremely expensive auctions. The protagonist, though, grabs onto the guy's pants and says he can't take it. He was the one who got it from the machine. But bro, we're in the favela, right? Where there's no money and there's no police either. Did you like that heavy social critique? The boss just orders them to stomp on the kid. With that, our boy gets turned into a pancake. But even while getting beaten up, he grabs the boss again and demands he give the account back. The guy, though, grabs his head and asks if he forgot what it's like to live in this world as a nameless nobody. Anything good he gets from the shop has to be paid for. After all, they run things around here. But, not wanting to be unfair, he says he'll give the kid a gift. He touches his forehead, saying they always make fair trades. With that, the protagonist receives 30,000 points in his system, which was enough for one more single spin on the roulette. The guy tells him that with this, he took what the kid got in one spin, and now the kid can take another. So it's even. Before our boy could even complain, boom, face first on the asphalt again. But the kid is stubborn and once more goes to grab the guy's pants. But man, he may be tough, but he's still human, right? He just drops to the ground for good. With that, it starts raining, and the guys stay there heading out to eat something good, while leaving our boy there, man, kissing the asphalt. One of the bald guys then tells the boss to take a look. The kid was actually getting back up. The guys can't understand how the hell this bastard is still managing to stand. Then the system starts giving some alerts that his vital signs were dropping. He urgently needed to get to the nearest hospital as fast as possible. The boss starts wondering if maybe he accidentally went easy on the guy because it just doesn't make sense. And the protagonist once again starts heading back to the betting shop man. Some don't believe it, while others say that's the kind of dedication needed to get an SSR. But whatever, they're gonna stick around and keep an eye on him. And if he gets something good again, they'll just do another fair trade. The bald guy, though, asks what they're gonna do if the kid dies in the shop, to which the boss replies that they'll just take the body out of there. And that's it. After all, he's a nobody, unknown, so no one's gonna care. Meanwhile, the system keeps warning the protagonist that his vital signs keep dropping. The pain was kind of fading away, like he was about to lose consciousness. Breathing was hard, he couldn't even hear what people around him were saying. Completely shaking, he walks through the crowd. He goes to one of the betting machines, but falls to the ground, drags himself, and stands back up to try one last spin. He reaches with his finger to press the button, but the system warns that his vitals had reached a critical state. At that moment, all he could think was that his life really had been trash. That's when, in the middle of the place, everyone seemed to see the Yggdrasil tree itself. The boss couldn't even tell what exactly that was because of how much it was glowing. And suddenly, the protagonist's body started to look kind of digitalized. The system says an emergency has been detected and the condition was red. The only rescue method was a forced conversion into a character. And with that, the Yggdrasil system asks him to choose the character's name. Suddenly, the protagonist finds himself with the name Ryuki. He's there, kind of confused, not understanding where he is or what's happening. A message then says that because he leaked confidential information from the guild, he was banned. He looks around saying he would never do something like that. But the verdict is given, and all charges are accepted. With that, his ranking is removed. The protagonist seemed to recognize that voice, and two strange entities welcome him to the life of a nobody. Our guy tries to defend himself, saying he didn't do anything. But a hooded figure approaches from the side, saying it's too late now. It was time for 7017 to get up. With that, he wakes up, and looking to the side, he sees himself in a strange digital world. That place really didn't feel like reality, and he didn't know if he was dead or if this was the afterlife. When suddenly, a strange object that looked like some kind of bracelet appears and tells him to select a name. Our boy asked why the hell there was a floating vacuum cleaner talking to him, but the little robot told him to show some respect. It was the system box known as Ligon. Then it congratulated him for being the first person in existence to get a UR-ranked item. The boy had no idea what the hell that thing was talking about. As far as he knew, SSR was the highest rank. Igon then said it would explain that where he was now was right in the middle of the dividing line between reality and the virtual world. And the reason he needed a name now was to finish the conversion and access the labyrinth. But our boy knew that for that, he'd need an avatar and a game account. However, the robot says that's just a human limitation. He, on the other hand, doesn't need anything like that. Besides that, because of the critical state he was in, he initiated a forced conversion, connecting his body to Yggdrasil. Without further delay, he was supposed to go ahead and pick the character name so they could start this. Our protagonist still hadn't understood anything. He didn't know if this was a dream or reality, but there was a chance that this was the opportunity he had been needing. And with that, he chooses the name Ryuki. The settings are completed and he begins to be transferred to the labyrinth game. The moment he opens his eyes, he finds himself in a world called Phantom. He stood still for a few moments without saying anything, feeling the wind hitting his hair and his feet firm against the ground. That was completely different from any simulation he had ever experienced. Apparently, this was the labyrinth he had always wanted to enter. But in the middle of all that excitement, some skeletons appear next to him. The first one tries to attack, and he manages to dodge it by taking a small step back. Then he starts running, asking himself why there were so many creatures if, in theory, he should be in the tutorial. At least they were only level 1 skeletons, which were weak to physical attacks. Ryuki starts yelling to open the status window, but Igon just replies for him to stop asking for dumb stuff. Our boy then wants to know where the equipment is. Normally when you start a game, you get something. But the robot explains that since he got a UR-ranked item, he didn't need to follow any of the labyrinth's rules. Also, he wouldn't be benefited by any skills, stats, levels, or any kind of advantages given by the labyrinth or the world called Phantom. As long as he had Igon by his side, all he needed to do was test his luck in a random box. At least he had the beginner bonus. After logging in for 7 consecutive days, he'd receive a ticket guaranteeing an SR item. Since this was his first time, he receives 100 tickets from Igon, plus 5 more tickets for entering the world called Phantom. Ryuki celebrates that at least he got a bunch of tickets and says he wants to start opening them right away. The boy is brave. He opens the first item, picks it up, and already calls out the skeletons, saying now it's gonna be easy. But the used toilet mop he got didn't last long, no. He goes right back to running, cursing out Igon and asking where his luck is. Then he throws a wig at the skeleton, which was the second item he got. He's running around, leaving a bunch of stuff on the ground. When suddenly, the robot tells him to be careful, but it's too late. He falls flat on his face like an idiot. Man, the little robot wearing the wig comes swinging the sword. Then finally, one of the boxes beside him shines. He manages to block the attack because he got a short sword in there, right? Clearly, it was pretty meh, but better than nothing. He celebrates the decent weapon and charges forward. He says it's just a level 1 skeleton. There's no way he can lose. But I think our gamer here isn't much of a gamer, because he tried to swing the sword at the skeleton's head. Obviously, the result was that he took a stab to the shoulder and the sword did absolutely nothing. Ryuki, though, is confused. Why did he take a stab that stuck in his shoulder instead of just losing HP? Aigon explains once again that the rules for them are completely different, so HP isn't a thing. He's risking his actual life. Seeing the skeleton coming, Ryuki wonders if he got into this mess just to die in such a meaningless way. Then he charges forward to block the attack as 2 boxes fall down. As soon as they hit the ground, he manages to deflect the skeleton's blow, charges in, and sends it flying. He's confused. For a second, it felt like he had used a skill and his body moved on its own. That's when he sees that from the boxes, he got 2 S-rank skills. One for defense and one for sword mastery. And Aigon says that he's the only one who isn't limited by the world of Yggdrasil. If an item or skill shows up in the box, it gets transferred to him immediately. Another skeleton was coming in to attack from the side, but the SR rank parry activates and he manages to deflect the attack. With that, the creature is left kind of frozen and he lands a clean slash on it. Man, who was it again that said you couldn't cut skeletons with a sword, huh? Who was the idiot that said that 3 minutes ago? That was obviously thanks to the SR rank sword mastery. Ryuki now understood that those skills shouldn't even exist in the world of Phantom, since Yggdrasil has a bunch of different places. But with this talent, he was ignoring the laws and restrictions. Aigon then says he always knew the kid was lucky. It's no wonder he pulled a your item. When Ryuki looked back, he saw his first SR box. Right away, he smiled and went to grab the box, saying something's not right here. But a miracle was happening in his life. 3 skeletons come at him to attack, but with the box in hand. He turns and slashes all of them at once, already warning. If they're gonna give him this much luck, he's gonna milk it for all it's worth. The world he's in is called Phantom, a game considered a work of art made by the company Lasha. Besides that, out of all the games in the labyrinth, it's the most popular, and the one that everyone goes through. Ryuki was there, man, farming skeletons non-stop. Finally, he was one of the lucky ones who was also part of this. The kid was stacking up skeletons, but the experience he got was immediately turned into points to pull more boxes. Things were completely different for him, and he doesn't even have a level. Also, from the math he did, he'd have to kill 15 skeletons just to try his luck one single time. Now it was time for him to take a look at what to do with that SSR item he pulled. To him, it was something absurd, didn't even make sense for it to exist. But Aigon says if it's in front of him, then it exists. No wonder it's SSR, man. Stuff like that is always good. But our boy puts it away, saying for now he'll leave it sealed. That's because it's going to be perfect for dealing with that person, or actually, their whole guild. For now, he's going to hide that power for the perfect moment. The skills required roulette points to level up. At least for him, things were real simple. All he needed was for the game to keep sending monsters and for him to keep killing them. He liked it when the only thing he had to do was keep grinding. Sometime later, an explosion happens in the forest and another skeleton falls to the ground, leaving behind a crystal in front of him. This was already his 3rd day in the game, and obviously he had been doing all the daily quests and farming all day long. He finally managed to gather 1,500 points, which was enough to do 10 pulls. Man, I think that's better than Genshin Impact, right? Farmed 3 days and got 10 pulls. Not that bad at all. Aigon is there celebrating, saying he's excited to see what the kid's gonna pull this time. But Ryuki spends 1,400 points to level up both skills. The robot loses it, saying this bastard should try his luck. It's way more fun. Our boy wants to know the probabilities, and the system explains. 70% chance for N rank, 27% for R, 2.7% for SR, and 0.3% for SSR. Then he wants to know why his inventory is full of trash. The robot tells him to stop whining. He already pulled several good skills. But Ryuki replies that he's only going to open boxes with the daily mission rewards. The rest of the points he gets, he'll spend to upgrade things. The robot says it got it, but then asks, "So how long are you planning to stay here in the tutorial forest?" But our protagonist is cautious man. He needs weapons and to level up his skills. Only then will he leave that place. He's someone who knows this world better than anyone, and he needs to use his knowledge from the past to the fullest. The starting forest wasn't an exception, and he was going to make sure to take full advantage of it. That's because it's a place where, once you leave, you can't come back. So before taking risks out in the world, he needed to make the most of it. He then tells Aigon that he needs to practice a lot to understand what the limits of the system are and what he can actually do even without having any stats. Apparently, 7 days have already passed. And of course, leveling up was starting to slow down more and more. At least both SR rank skills were already at level 3. Unfortunately, there was no option to level them up further, which shows this is the limit of the tutorial. But then Aigon gives him a little pat on the face, saying it's time to claim this 7-day login reward. Even though it was a guaranteed SR, there was still a chance it could be a useless SR. But man, it's all or nothing, and he commands the box to open. The golden package falls to the ground, glows, and then he seems confused, asking if something like that can actually exist in this world. He'd receive an SR rank sword, but at the same time it's a sword, it also has a revolver built into it. That one's efficient. But he knows that, considering the Phantom World's story, weapons like that shouldn't exist, which means if anyone sees something like that, the world is going to go nuts. He tests it out by doing a little light cut on a tree, which instantly gets sliced like butter. Even considering that he has sword mastery, the power of that thing was out of the ordinary. That's when he remembers that when he entered the game, he was basically dying in real life and wonders what happens if he dies here. Aigon explains that if he dies, he'll receive a backup and will be resurrected. But he wouldn't want to go through that since reconstructing the body would hurt like hell. Ryuki, though, replies that he doesn't care about the pain and tells him to go ahead and use the tickets. He needed to increase his combat power even more, even if just a little. Sometime later, he's already re-equipped with a rank R set, but hey, at least it's better than nothing. He then tells Aigon to get ready and start recording everything. From this second on, not a single moment of his gameplay should be missed. The robot asks what the file name should be, and he says to call it, the disc that backed away but escaped from the abyss. The robot says okay, but wants to know why he suddenly wants to record something like that. Our boy explains that most of the games from the company Rocha were kind of rushed in development, and even this one, which was one of the most well-made, wasn't that different. There are still some bugs. Like, for example, right in front of him is this boss knight, who was supposed to appear way later in the game. The system announces that this is the Black Knight of Chaos, a creature blessed by the god of darkness. And with that, a sudden mission appears to eliminate him. He would receive 10 tickets and one guaranteed S-rank ticket. For someone who was already planning to kill the creature, getting a bonus on top was perfect. The boss raises his sword, telling the boy to prove himself, and slashes down hard. Ryuki, though, with that overpowered sword and level 3 parry skill, manages to deflect the monster's attack backwards. Just as he expected, since he doesn't have levels, he's limited to what his skills can do. With that, he tells the knight to get ready and lands a solid blow to the chest, but the strike doesn't seem to do anything. Aigon congratulates him for his bravery and says it looks like his attacks are working. Obviously, Ryuki is confused, especially since he didn't deal any damage. That's when Aigon tells him to remember. He's in a more realistic world. Then the protagonist understands. He was fighting like a character trying to chip away HP by hitting armor. But he wasn't bound by the rules anymore, and in this case, needed to fight more realistically. With that, he throws himself at the boss in search of a real weak point. The knight tries to block his blow, but Ryuki manages to defend with the sword and get closer. He stabs the sword deep into the armor and fires a shot right in the middle of the arm. The stump falls to the ground and the knight lets out a groan of agony. Ryuki is finally starting to understand what Aigon keeps saying about him not having HP but at the same time being able to break the rules of the game. He didn't have to worry about the life of the creatures. What mattered was fighting in a realistic way. In the middle of all that haze in his head, out of nowhere, the monster hits him right in the shoulder. The problem is, Ryuki knows that the Black Knight shouldn't have any long-range attack pattern. Then he sees the strange energy that hit him also coming from the knight's arm. And the knight says that whoever threatens the Lord deserves to experience the abyss. Ryuki manages to dodge, but he's already starting to think maybe he underestimated this creature. Maybe the boss that appears at the end of the game is different from this one in the tutorial. After all, when you die in the starting village, you're sent to the first area, which means no one's ever fought this guy twice. He's in the middle of defending against a bunch of attacks, but of course, several of them are hitting him too. One lands a direct hit right in his stomach. The scene then cuts to our boy slamming his hand on a table, saying he doesn't understand. The strategy had gone wrong again and he has no idea what the problem was. Back in those days, he belonged to Guild Lindsay, and he was an analyst, the guy who receives the data. But he says the area where he was trying to work out the strategy had already been conquered by Linful. Ryuki insists saying this time it's way more efficient. Besides, they'd be a bit ahead of the other guilds. But the guy just throws the papers away and says he's not even a player or someone with an amazing rank. So why is he trying to make decisions for Guild Lindsay? In this place, they don't do replays. That was the decision made by the best one there, Linful. So why was he questioning it? Ryuki is back in the room slamming the table again, saying those idiots keep up with that no replay thing just so Linful can keep the ranks. But unfortunately, he had to calm down and focus on his mom's surgery costs. That was way more important. Suddenly, someone calls out Ryuki's name and he jumps. The person apologizes, saying they thought he might want some coffee. It's another researcher named Cynthia, who already says that apparently the guides he was working on got rejected again. He looks exhausted and she walks up asking if he wants a little help. Not the kind of help we're hoping he wants, but he says he wants help with some classified info to finish the guide. She says okay and smiles, saying that since he wants it, she'll get her best. Sometime later, Ryuki is back at the hospital, telling his mom not to worry. He already scheduled the surgery. She asks about the costs, but he says it's all fine. The guild have finally approved it. His mom gets all happy and hugs him, saying she's proud of how hard he works. He replies that everything's going to work out and says that hard work really was bringing him luck. But in the next scene, he's being expelled from Guild Lindsay for leaking secrets. He tries to say something, but the guy just tells him not to even defend himself. They already have enough evidence. Even though he had been discreet, they had already gotten information from Linful and Cynthia. Oh, that bastard. Look, in Linful's arms even. That cursed woman. Man, she tricked me with that little smile. Now I already want him pulling out an SSR gun and shooting that wretch woman right in the head. And that damn Linful is still there saying that he must be the idiot Ryuki, the one who kept sending those ridiculous guides. Seeing the kid with that stupid look on his face really fired him up. Then he turns to Cynthia and says she went through a lot to have to be near that piece of trash. But today they were going out to celebrate. With that, he walks off saying Ryuki should know where he came from. There's no point in being an analyst if you can't even analyze properly, let alone trying to make a guide so others can surpass you. Truth is, he doesn't know where he belongs. Then he walks out the door, saying it's a shame, but the insignificant life he had has come to an end. At that moment, our boy lost the little dignity he still had in that city and dropped to unknown rank man. At that point, all the money, status, honor, and family he had were taken away. He even lost his name. That's capitalism at its finest. Bro, you lose your money, not even your name's left behind. But now Ryuki is back in the dungeon holding off the Black Knight's attack, who's impressed that he's still standing after taking a hit like that. Our boy keeps resisting, and then the monster raises its sword, saying that in the end there's no way he's getting out of this. The attack comes full force at Ryuki, who wonders if this is really going to be the end again. How different would this opportunity be from his last life? Thinking of his mother and Cynthia, he swears he's going to make her pay for everything. Then he parries the knight's stomach attack, pulls out his own sword, and leaps forward. He grabs the knight's head, drives the sword into the helmet, and remembers those two pieces of trash. The knight falls to the ground, and he swears he won't forgive either of them. With that, the creature explodes, man. For killing a Black Knight at a low level, he receives 15,000 experience. On top of that, the emergency quest gives 10 tickets and 1 guaranteed SR ticket, while disintegrating the knight tells him to surpass Oblivion and go beyond. Ryuki just replies that there's no need to say it, he's going to keep moving forward. Igon recorded everything, and now a blonde guy is watching, wanting to know when the video was uploaded. The other person replies that it was just a few hours ago and asks if he wants them to reach out. But the guy replies he doesn't need that, he remembers the face. He just wants the car ready and also wants to know where Linful is. That guy, by the way, is the real leader of Guild Lindsay, Gabriel Darius. Apparently, Linful wasn't just the strongest in fights. The video our boy posted on IGGTube is of course causing a stir on social media. No one can believe someone went one-on-one with the glitched tutorial boss. What didn't make sense was that if it was in Phantom, there's no way he could have had a sword with a gun attached. On top of that, those reflex skills seemed way too strange. All of that made people wonder whether the video was fake or if the kid was abusing a bug that shouldn't exist. Man, the thing's already playing almost like a blockbuster on the big screen, and nobody can believe how fast he was reacting. Another analyst from Guild Lindsay named Laguna wants to know who this Ryu 7017 is. She considers herself a pro-level analyst, but even she can't understand how he beat that boss. She tells the team that this definitely seems like some kind of bug they should already know about. But the guy with the glasses says that the face is definitely who he's thinking of, but it really shouldn't make any sense. Then we see Linful turning around, asking what's this talk about Ryuki. Damn it, why are villains always hanging around the hot ones? And there's Linful, saying he has no idea who that guy is. But the man in the suit responds that the analyst from 3 years ago, who used to make some pretty solid guides, the one Linful asked to be kicked out of the guild, became a nobody. Linful just replies that the world is full of people with that same story. The man wants to know if he saw the Black Knight video, and Linful says yes, he already saw it. To him, it looked much more like some sort of bug, because clearly it's impossible to kill that creature in the tutorial. Then the man standing says Linful needs to understand that the person in the video is exactly Ryuki, and he should know what that means. Linful turns around angry and tells his brother to stop talking about that bastard. Since when are they cowards who care about someone like that? They shouldn't even waste mental energy thinking about that kid. Gabriel just decides to say nothing, man. Another guy approaches and asks what they're going to do, because he says this Ryuki seems to be trying to provoke them on purpose. Apparently, it looks like a trap, so they better be careful. First, they'll need to find out where he went after being kicked out of the guild to know what the next steps are. He walks off, saying to himself there's no need to rush. They have time to gather information. The problem is figuring out how his brother is going to handle it. Back with our boy, Igon says he's already recovered 87% and can move. Our guy stands up, drenched in blood, saying the pain was worse than he imagined. Because Igon explains that of course it was, multiple organs and muscles were torn, not to mention several bone fractures. But Ryuki smiles, saying that soon he'll get used to it, especially because he's going to experience it countless times. He keeps moving forward and sees a tower on the horizon. It was finally time to say goodbye to the tutorial. The demonic tower is the main content of this world. The problem is, it's something he can't access yet. He'll need to first level up several skills in the dungeons around the tower. As they move forward, Ivan says he thinks it was crazy that he shared the video. Now a bunch of people know about him, they'll want to kill him. But Ryuki says he doesn't think it'll be that serious. Most people will just think it's a bug, and bugs happen all the time. Besides, the person at the top of Lindsay tends to be much more cautious, so he'll want to gather intel before figuring out how to act. And that's exactly why he needs as much attention as possible. The more famous he gets, the fewer options Lindsay has to act against him, because everything would be made public. Not to mention, if that conversion works the way the robot explained, he can hide his body from this game world whenever he wants. It's like he's kind of log out, but since he doesn't have a real body in the real world, his log out state is like existing in the void, or at least that's what I think it is. And the little robot says he's using the system in a pretty smart way. Ryuki, on the other hand, is just thinking he can't wait to get revenge on that damn Linful. He's sure that once he starts making enough noise, that guy will try something. And that's exactly when he's going to strike. The system then says it's tired of all the chatting. It's time to open some tickets. He had 20 pulls, 2 guaranteed SR pulls, and 15,000 points. Time to start spinning and try his luck. But Ryuki says going to this city is the priority because he has to save a revival point. However, Ivan explains that this only happens to people who are brought from the other world. His body actually already exists in this world. At that point, he activates the conversion system and returns to that shop where he died. I'm a little confused, but I think what happened is he now actually exists in that world, and when he converts, he comes from that world into this one, while people from Earth actually go from Earth to there. In the end, everybody's interacting with each other, right? But I think that's kind of the idea. He's there, kind of confused, looking at himself, saying he was just about to die, but now he's not feeling anything. The system says that's because he's just too awesome. Besides, first it's best to block the cameras in that place. But man, here come those gangsters again, already showing up, saying that the bastard looks pretty healthy for someone who supposedly died. No way, right? These gangsters, they set up some tent outside and just hang around all day. The alarm goes off. He just gets up and walks out. Ryuki isn't dumb. He breaks the window and takes off running man. Aiman says he's looking for an escape route and our guy follows the directions. But he ends up in a dead end. He punches the robot, saying the bastard just led him straight to his death, apparently. But the little robot explains that there's a reason for everything. The gangsters then catch up to Ryuki and say he's a bastard for making everyone run around at this hour of the night. Now they want to know what the kid pulled from the machine yesterday at the moment he disappeared out of nowhere. If he doesn't want to die, he just needs to hand it over and everything will be fine. Obviously, no way is Ryuki handing over Igon like that. The robot tells him to grab a wooden sword that's nearby. That's because at the moment he can't bring over any items from that world, so he's going to have to use whatever's close by. Ryuki picks it up, saying this is a joke. How is he supposed to fight these guys with that? But a little system window pops up. The gangsters start laughing, asking if the kid really thinks he's going to win using something like that. The Tigran of a Jersey guy charges forward, telling him to give up now. It'll hurt less. But then, whack. He takes a hit to the arm, and then a smack to the face. Everyone jumps back in shock, and the boss immediately orders everyone to go in. There's even some office dude in the middle of the gangsters, man. But Ryuki says this is what's insane. Even in this world outside the game, he still has access to his abilities, folks. He has no idea why it's possible, but he's sure it's ridiculously overpowered. A few seconds earlier, when he smacked that guy, everyone got confused. They seem to have seen a strange glow. The boss, though, grits his teeth and tells everyone to go in, as if they're going to lose to one unknown kid. But now the bastard is sure. That kid must have pulled some seriously good item to be able to fight them like that. Still, they're part of the Black Snake, the group that dominates the Unknown's territory. But his expression changes, his face goes dark, and the next second, there's just one bald dude left, taking a hit to the head. Ryuki even asks, is that really all you little thugs can do? At the moment he picked up that wooden sword from the ground, he understood what's going on. Most people send their body to interact with the avatar in the game, but he, on the other hand, sent his own body into the game, and that's why he feels so much pain over there. Obviously, the advantage is completely unbalanced, because the stronger his body gets in the game, the stronger he gets in real life. I don't even know where from, but a bunch more thugs show up, man. They all charge in, but man, against someone with SSR, they got no chance. A light tap to the leg or arm and the bones are already broken. Then our boy walks up calling for the leader, thanking him for the help he gave yesterday. The chump is spinning a stick trying to hit something, telling him not to come any closer. But Ryuki just blocks it with a level 3 parry and knocks the weapon right out of his hands. Right away, he asks if the guy's going to stop right there. can't just walk away unscathed after all of his underlings got beat up. The leader throws himself to grab the stick, shouting at him to shut up, but gets smacked right on the hand, immediately crying out in pain. He tries to throw a little punch in rage, but gets a club to the mouth too. Falls to the ground like trash, and Ryuki says that now he understands why this power feels so good. At this moment, he must be feeling just as good as they felt when they stomped on him that day. But he's sure that the leader's busted-up face suits him way better. The guy starts begging for forgiveness, asking him to stop. But Ryuki says that the card he stole that day was the last hope he had, and even then the guy still took it. So now they're not leaving until they've also lost every bit of hope they had. The guy crying says that no one known ever does something like that and gets away with it. But Ryuki man raises the club, saying that unfortunately, nobody's going to hear about what happened here. The chump is about to beg again. We see one of his eyes spinning and his head snaps sideways. Damn, I thought he was gonna be the kind of MC that actually kills. But nope, the robot's just asking why he let them live. Ryuki replies that it's because of what the robot did, and to avoid raising suspicion. What the robot did was enter the gangsters' minds and manipulate their vision, so they don't even know Ryuki is still alive. Well, I'll forgive you this time, he says, but next time, I better see some killing. Got it. Yeah, protagonist, for me you gotta kill. Don't come at me with this forgiving the villain nonsense. Then he says they're going to need to hide Aigon's existence. Nobody in this world can know that an item like him exists. He grabs some random little knife and realizes the aura activates. As long as he's holding something that represents a blade or a sword, he can still use it. And honestly, his knife was way more convenient than walking around the freaking sword. Ryuki was about to ask something, but the robot seems to read his mind and answers before he even opens his mouth. Says no, his body won't age faster in the real world. That's because his true existence is now inside Yggdrasil. Outside, sometime later, our boy is talking to the little gangster, saying that this modern world is incredible. People recover real fast. Now it made sense why he let the guy live. He tells him to hand over the ticket, otherwise things will get messy. The guy obviously says he's saving up money, but needs more time. But that little knife's already pressed against his forehead, and our boy says that since he spared his life, it's best he doesn't forget that. The guy apologizes, and Ryuki tells him to start walking. They're going to get it right now. In the red light district, there's this poor guy scratching his neck all weird. Looks like he's got some kind of demonic virus or something. One of the gang members shows up and kicks him out of the way, telling him to get lost. That place is a store called Shutenku, and the guy says most transactions go through there. Ryuki instantly realizes it's probably where his ticket got sold. When he walks in, a guy in a cloak notices a customer entered. It sounded like the voice of an old person, and our boy asks if he's the owner. I don't know if this person's really that old. And no, I don't even know if it's a guy. I don't know what it is. But I know he's a shop owner and his name is Suzuki. The robot, in a digital form that only Ryuki can see, says that thing in front of him isn't a person. It's analyzing his data in real time. Our boy had already noticed the weird voice and says that cybernetic robots like that should have already been banned. Suzuki says it's impressive that he noticed so easily, but it's ridiculous to talk about laws to someone who works in the black market. Then our boy wants to know what happened to the account creation ticket. Suzuki glances at the beaten-up gangster and already gets the idea. He explains that item is one of the most popular there is, so it was sold as soon as it came in. He asks if that's all, and Ryuki says no. He pulls out a bag and says he's there to make some trades, since that's what this place specializes in. Suzuki goes to check it out, saying he's curious to see what the kid brought. And he seems surprised, right? I think it's those orbs he was farming in the dungeon earlier. He asks, all of this, these are mana orbs, and asks if he even knows how valuable each one is. But Ryuki answers that clearly he's being underestimated, just because he's an unknown. Obviously, he knows something as basic as that. At the very least, our boy should understand prices. He used to be a strategist in a guild, he's not dumb. I hope so, anyway. In the dungeons, there are two types of items. The normal ones, like swords and shields and all that, and some called specials. The specials, for example, are things like potions, mana orbs, that kind of stuff. The higher the grade, the purer it is, and the more power you can get out of it. But Suzuki replies that it doesn't make sense to sell something like that on the black market, if the price is already set by the regular market. Why is he trying to do that here? Ryuka just tells him not to get involved and to go ahead and sell. That's what he came there to negotiate. Suzuki, however, finds it strange. An unknown who doesn't have access to the game shouldn't have mana stones to sell. Then he already tells Luga, right, that little thug there, to disappear from the place. The guy's all crook, wondering if Ryuki authorizes it, who just tells him to scram. With that, the door explodes right on the poor guy. The seller then says that yeah, it really is strange for an unknown to be selling mana stones, unless he stole them. But he also knows of someone who's been defying logic. Ryuki is about to ask what it is, and the guy says he's truly surprised. The star of that video just walked into his shop. With that, he opens his arms, welcoming Ryu 7017. If he wanted to hide his identity, he should have been much more careful, especially carrying a mana stone like that. It's an item dropped specifically from the Black Chaos Knight, and you can see that on the app. With all that said, he wants to know what Ryu 7017 is doing in his store. Yeah, this modern world is crazy, man. You post 10 seconds of a video, and everybody already knows who you are. Ryuka just admits that it's him and says they should focus on the business. Suzuki says fine and wants to know what he's looking for. Our boy points at his head and says he's looking for a mod. The seller says he must be going crazy, doesn't even know what that is. But Ryuki responds that he knows they're apps that artificially alter some things inside the labyrinth. Even an unknown like him knows about that. The seller then says that apparently he doesn't know anything. Most of the mods were cancelled due to limitations or critical failures. Our boy, though, uninterested, it just says a black market vendor must be the only one who still has a few stored away. He wants those that reduce the game's difficulty, and he doesn't care about the side effects. Suzuki asks if he didn't see that guy outside the store scratching his neck. That guy is one of the unlucky ones who tried using a mod and got wrecked. Man, what the hell is that? Back in my day, you tried using a little hack and you got banned, all right? That's it. The poor guy had his brain fried. And Suzuki says that was from a simple pain reduction mod, and it caused all that. Obviously, the more changes you try to make, the worse the side effects can be. That guy tried to reduce the amount of pain he felt, and now all his other senses are extremely heightened. Basically, he's ruined, and even after removing the mod, he couldn't recover. From insanity to instant death, even spontaneous combustion, all sorts of things can happen. And that's why mods are illegal. But then Ryuki says he's not just some regular player. It's no coincidence he defeated the Chaos Knight. People are already calling him a cheater, so he should know how he plays. He doesn't care about the cost or the risk. If there's any mod sitting in this place, he wants it. Suzuki asks if he wants the ones that were discarded for being extremely dangerous. Ryuka just says yes, he wants to take a look. The kid snaps his fingers and says fine then. He can take a look at the ones that were discontinued. If he really has the guts to use something like that, he can start testing. In the box, there are CDs, man, from version 1 to 25. I would never in my life install something from a CD into my head. Are you crazy? But Ryuki is there thinking. He knows this stuff is risky, like he has his reasons. That first mod right there was triple power attack. And Igon already says that one's going to be a total failure. Actually, it's just exaggerated numbers and doesn't even have an effect. The next device, in theory, gave the power to see 1 second into the future. Once again, Igon says it's trash. It'll just make his vision blurry. The other mod made your character look amazing, and Igon says that it's possible to do that with some kind of illusion, but it's useless. The other one increased all skill damage by 20%, but it would destroy his brain. Also, it would increase the pain he feels by 3,000 times, which clearly wasn't a good idea. Ryuki already realized that all of this was just trash, until he saw one that was a probability manipulator. Igon analyzes it and says that the person who made this was truly a genius. It wasn't very effective, but it increased his luck by between 0.3 and 0.5%. And considering how it would be implemented in our boy, that would probably result in around 0.5 to 1% for him. Ryuki knew that 1% might not seem like much, but when it comes to luck, man, that's a lot. He then turns to Suzuki and says he's going to take 3 mods, including that one. The seller replies that apparently he's not all talk and really did pick out the few that were actually decent from that pile of trash. Obviously, the protagonist finds that peculiar. Why did this bastard offer him junk to begin with? The shopkeeper apologizes and says he wasn't trying to mess with the kid. It's just that another client asked him to take a look at those mods, and he'd already seen a few of them. Then Ryuki wants to know if that request came from the person who created those mods, to which Suzuki replies that soon enough he'll find out. Besides, he'll give him a special discount, since those things would have never even seen the light of day otherwise. Then some messages appear, asking if he wants to install the applications, but they warn that once he clicks yes, it's irreversible. In his mind, he already decides to install, but then Suzuki says he wants to ask one last thing. If these mods work, what is it that he wants to do with this power? The scene doesn't give an answer, man. We see a tree, and some time later, Suzuki is laughing like a lunatic on the ground. Our boy pointed upward and told me that he wants to reach the skies. He doesn't want to be bronze or silver, not even gold or platinum. He wants to take everyone down along the way and reach the top of that world. That crazy seller, who clearly has some kind of mental issue, replies that he's looking forward to seeing what the kid is going to do. Sometime later, back in the game, he's holding his identification card in the Phantom World. He thought it would be hard since he's an unknown, but obviously, no one was going to suspect anything. After all, an unknown shouldn't even be in the game. But now finally, he had arrived at the starting village. Everyone's happy. The old man's selling his overpriced apple, and the kids are running around with their goofy little faces. In the middle of all that is our boy, impressed at how peaceful that place seemed. Suddenly, Igon pops up, telling him to start pulling tickets already. It's been a long time since he tried his luck. Ryuki tells the gacha addict to calm down a bit. He doesn't want to draw too much attention. But that's when our boy notices that there are people staring at him weird. The protagonist explains that he already knows this very well. It seems that NPCs are made to not like players. Of course, that's because players also don't treat NPCs like people, which ends up creating this vicious cycle. Then, a guy in a blue jacket gets slammed to the ground. One with a beanie walks up, asking how the hell he had the nerve to try to rob him. The guy says he's starving, while the protagonist wonders what's going on. Also, the NPC's clothes looked very different from the rest of the people there. Ed explains that this guy seems to have come from another game in the labyrinth called Alien Space, but that game was shut down 3 months ago, or basically, the entire world over there was deleted. The only way people could survive was to migrate to another game in the labyrinth. Now it's explained why there are a bunch of people wearing those weird clothes and starving. Adapting to a completely different world is not something that happens overnight. Igon says that as soon as a world is considered useless by Yggdrasil, it gets deleted on the spot. So you better start running because that could even happen to Phantom. Ryuka replies that it's all good as long as he can destroy Linful and that damn guild Lindsay. Then he's fine with it. Sometime later, he managed to get a room in an inn and finally had a place to sleep. At that very moment, the robot is already talking again, saying this is the perfect time to pull some tickets and play gacha. Also, his probability had slightly changed. The NNR items had lower chances now, and the SR and SSR were a little better. SSR, which used to be 0.3%, had now increased to 1%, more than 3 times higher. He then tells Zygon that the long-awaited moment has come, man. Time to spin the roulette. The robot celebrates immediately, saying he has 40 tickets, 2 with guaranteed SR, and 15,000 points. It was going to be enough to open a ton of stuff. Ryuki tells him to start first with the 40 regular tickets. Obviously, his expression wasn't too excited, right? A whole bunch of N-rank and R-rank items. In front of the poor guy, a pile of useless trash started stacking up. He falls to his knees in disbelief that he didn't get even one decent thing. Apparently, the amount he got was a lie. He didn't pull a single item above R. The robot, however, says he can already start a toothbrush store. At that, Ryuki grabs the little bastard, saying he's going to turn him into a piece of scrap metal. While the robot is begging to be let go, suddenly, something shines. From the skies come 3 guaranteed drops, right, man? Right away, his tone changes, saying he can always count on his buddy. I don't know if he used those guaranteed tickets, but he managed to get a Flash Step SR skill and an SSR intuition. The intuition at level 1 boosted his instincts. What at max level, it would allow him to even understand the essence of the world. The Flash Step was pretty obvious, a quick movement ability. Already excited to see the effect he activates intuition, but at that moment he didn't feel any difference at all. It didn't seem like anything compared to the other SSR skills he had gotten. He decides to take a look at the system, and there it says he'll have to spend 7,000 points to level up to the next stage, which to him is a total ripoff, since the other skills cost 2,100 to get to level 3. Igon already says not to spend points on a skill. He doesn't even know what it does. It'd be better to enjoy the hype and pull more because that's way more fun. But obviously Ryuki isn't going to do that, man. He's going to use those points to upgrade his skills. That's what. Sword Mastery and Parry go to level 4 and Flash Step to level 2. With that, he had 8,730 points left, and it cost 8,400 to take Mastery to level 5, while he's sitting there wondering if he should do it or not. The robot tells him he should go explore more. He should obviously pull more tickets and have fun. But the little bot breaks in half when Ryuki orders the system to take Sword Mastery straight to level 5, man. And then the system says that now that Mastery is maxed out, he can upgrade the rank. Just as he expected, it was worth reaching that limit. When he activates the rank upgrade, a golden light appears. A stone orb forms in the room. He asks Ligan what that is, but the poor bot is lying on the ground, devastated that he didn't get another chance to roll some gacha. The strange object keeps coming down, until the system grants him an achievement. For having maxed out Mastery, he earns 10 tickets, and apparently it became Ligon's System Mastery, an SR Plus skill that not only boosts his sword damage, but now gives him a blade aura as well. Ryuki had never even heard of SR Plus skills in the Phantom world, so maybe this was the strongest skill on that entire continent. While he's celebrating, arms wide open, the little system is asking why he, the system of luck, ended up paired with someone this cautious. His whole plan was to witness the glorious downfall of someone driven by greed. Ryuki is already at the door telling him to stop crying and get moving because now they were finally ready to begin. He wants to know what they're going to do. And obviously, man, it's time to go into the first dungeon. And the plan wasn't just to go into the dungeon, but to set the record in it. Ah, you sneaky devil. Now you're going to use those strategies you were selling to that guy Linful, huh? Gonna humiliate everyone. In front of the dungeon entrance, a guy with a giant axe asks his group if they're ready. From now on, everyone was supposed to stay alert and not let any item slip by. That's when our protagonist walks past like he's just casually strolling in. The guy immediately calls out to him and asks where he thinks he's going without a group. He should know how dangerous this place is. But our boy just says that he knows very well what he's getting into. The guys start thinking that apparently they've just run into some lunatic they've never seen before. And his buddy next to him, who's so important they didn't even draw eyes on him, says that in the past 3 months, no one has managed to complete this place. The leader is sure it's a waste of time. But there's Ryuki Man, Witch's hideout, and the goal was to break Linful's record. Gunblade ready, aura active, time to break some records. The witch watches from her orb, saying once again this bastard has invaded her domain. A filthy intruder like him shouldn't profane this sacred ground with his presence. But it was fine. She had ways to bring judgment upon anyone trying to enter that place. She would personally tear him apart and offer him as a sacrifice. That was obviously the boss of the place, and her level was just a series of question marks. Just by entering the dungeon, the sneaky kid got 1 ticket. The only problem was that the place was so dark he couldn't see anything ahead. Like seriously, I see torches on the wall. This poor guy must be blind. Apparently, the biggest problem with this dungeon is that every time you enter, it completely changes, so it's kind of hard to create a fixed strategy. He's sure that Linful cleared it in 17 hours and 30 minutes. Man, what the heck? 17 hours in the first dungeon? Might as well bring a wife and start a family while farming. Checking the rankings, he sees second place is held by someone named Azia, or well, a person named Azia, part of the Gaz clan, and they only took 8 minutes longer than Linful. Considering they were almost as good as Linful, it's a name worth keeping in mind. Suddenly, he stops, and looking up, there's a swarm of mosquitoes. Wait, not mosquitoes, giant bats. The problem is, not only do they move in huge groups, but they also stack a ton of debuffs. So even if you don't die right away, you just keep suffering until you can't take it anymore. But he's already pulling out an item, saying that's a story of the past. He throws something on the ground and says to Ligan, "This is how you handle this place." The thing explodes, spreading light everywhere. And if you thought it was a flashbang, you're totally wrong. It was a sound bomb, and now the suckers are falling everywhere with bleeding ears. Man, I felt bad for the little bats for a second. But then bam, sword to the chest. The kid has 0 mercy. He already cleared the farming zone, slashing everything in sight. He says this place isn't that hard once you know the tricks. What he wants to know, though, is why no one's finished this place in the past 3 months. Ivan wants to know why that would be strange. So Ryuki explains that, in theory, this is supposed to be a low-difficulty dungeon. For everyone to be struggling this much, something else is going on. They keep going through the cave, and Ivan wants to know if he's sure they're going the right way. Our boy tells him not to worry. He knows the patterns of this place, even if the map always changes. Ivan might not know, but he's written countless strategy guides when he was an analyst. This dungeon right here, he's simulated it thousands of times, so he knows exactly what he's doing. Igon, however, comments that they've already passed through this area like 12 times. It wouldn't be a shame to admit he's lost. But Ryuki just ignores him and goes left, saying the entrance is right up ahead. He tells him to look at that stalactite on the left, the one with the cut. You had to pass through this path 32 times, and when the cut showed up, it was proof that the route had changed. The little robot is confused, wanting to know how he came to such a precise conclusion. Obviously, right? It must have been trial and error thousands of times, and Ryuki just tells him to shut up because he has to focus now. But to make Igon happy, he explains that they had someone in the group who had a certain ability that helped discover those things. And in the past, before strategy guides were developed, people actually used to memorize every element of the map and tried to guide themselves that way. So even though everything changes, he still has an idea of which way to go. The robot asks if he really memorized all those tiny differences from a place as useless as this, and already laughs, saying he now realizes his master is completely out of his mind. As they continue through the cave, Ryuki is sure he spent more time here than he wanted. Not to mention he still didn't understand why no one had cleared this in the past 3 months. Meanwhile, the witch is yelling, saying that apparently he escaped from the labyrinth, but now will fall into despair. The second he steps on the death magic, he'll instantly die. And man, that's exactly what he just did. Something activates, a flame surrounds his body, he freezes for a moment. Ivan wants to know what happened, and he answers he's not sure, but it felt like he was going to die if he took another step. Then he pulls out a weird little doll from his inventory and throws it forward. As soon as it hits the ground, the flames appear again. He recognizes them immediately. That was instant death magic, something extremely rare that should only appear much later at the tower. Why was something like that in this place? Igon immediately says that if unknown changes are happening, it's better to retreat. And now Yuki is deep in thought. A trap this brutal, right from the start, was dangerous. Maybe it'd be better to turn back. But when he looks behind him, he sees a strange path. And for a moment, he feels like it'd be okay to go that way. He starts realizing that these gut feelings and even the fact he spotted the trap are all thanks to the intuition skill. Watching through the orb, the witch says this bastard is really lucky. He survived by a single second. But it was just a matter of time. No matter where he went in this endless labyrinth, eventually he would die. but suddenly he disappears from her orb. She's confused, uses a new spell, and locates him again. But now it doesn't make sense. He's in the central hall, which is really far from where he was before. Apparently, that damn rat managed to escape the illusion. But it's fine. This place is filled with traps, and that's where he'll die. Except a second later, Ryuki disappears again. She's confused and slams the table in anger, trying to understand what the hell this bastard is doing. Our boy was jumping through the very edges of the traps, dodging them all. The witch had no idea how he was doing it or why he kept disappearing from her sight. So she decides to end it all before anything else goes wrong and activates all the traps at once. A blue flame surrounds the whole orb, and she celebrates, saying, "Finally got rid of that cursed intruder." But behind her, something explodes. A voice from behind says that the materials weren't that great, but there were still things worth using. Aigon's voice follows up, saying that if he had any sense, he'd disable that skill immediately. The witch turns and sees the two of them talking. Aigon's scolding him, saying that this new skill of his is totally broken, and he can't just walk around with something like that. Naturally, the witch wants to know how the hell he got there. But our boy says he's too lazy to explain, so he's just gonna handle this quickly. He knows very well that she's the Witch of Solitude, no Miss Serial. Or rather, there was another name that fit her way better, Bug. The witch says the answer she wants is for that bastard to say how he got out of the traps. Ryuko replies that he almost lost his head. The path to this place was filled with deadly things all over. Aigon wants to know why he's talking in such a weird tone. Just a bit before that, our boy was looking down at the ground, watching the traps and wondering if there was any way to beat this. Maybe he should wait until the bug in this place got patched. But that's when he remembered. He needs his name to be known by everyone, before his former guild comes after him. That's when Aigon says he had detected multiple traps, and at that point it was definitely better to retreat. Then half the room exploded and he jumped to the side. Aigon freaked out, saying this bastard was trying to commit suicide. But then our boy told him to calm down. That skill he had gotten was even better than he thought. Back with the witch, he says the intuition skill is really good. The guy is even showing her, telling her that's how he got into the room. That one he wanted to explain in detail. Aigon says that as good as it is, it's still linked to a human, so eventually he's going to hit its limit. Ryuki gets ready to attack, saying that's obvious. But what matters right now is survival. Suddenly, the window showing the witch's name starts glitching, and she screams the intruder's name. Several instant-death traps appear in front of her, and Ryuki rushes in. The first attack comes, he ducks just in time. If not for the skill, he'd be dead. He starts to realize that the witch seemed to be getting corrupted by the bug in her. Whatever her pattern was, he didn't have time to figure it out. He had to attack now. So he uses Flash Step to get in close. With his sword aura active, he says she really is dangerous. But this is the end. Wham! A clean cut to the neck, separating the body from the robot's head. Ryuki thinks that was way too easy. And then the attacks keep coming from the rest of her body that's still there. He manages to back off, and when he looks again, she's reforming. Now he's sure. She's the reason for everything that's been happening in this dungeon. And the problem is, normal attacks didn't seem to do anything. She sends another wave of spells in his direction, which he manages to dodge as he keeps advancing. At that moment, the key was to keep his intuition skill active at maximum, because without it, he'd die on the spot. As he's dodging, he turns around and asks if Aigon has any ideas. And Aigon replies that just to help the kid out, he's going to activate the system so he can try to analyze her. As soon as he says to show the window, it pops up. Witch of Solitude, level 25. Bug with infinite regeneration and instant death active. And looking at her, you could see a strange wing on her back with the word death written on it. What he notices is that the wings were oddly colored. So he advances and uses Analyze, but just on the wings. That's when he discovers this was an item from the game Beyond Space. He remembers that's the same one those dozens of people abandoned in the city came from. Now it made sense. What was causing this bug? While Ryuki dodges the attacks, Aigon is recording everything and says he's going crazy. In the middle of that situation, where a single touch would mean his death, he had a smile on his face. The kid is throwing out Instagram motivational quotes and says that on the path to the pinnacle of humanity, a fire like this wouldn't stop him. Meanwhile, the witch is preparing a mega attack from behind, saying the damn intruder is going to die. Ryuki sees it and thinks it's pretty simple. If a single touch means death, then just don't let it touch you. The boss keeps charging up the orb until suddenly it explodes in the middle of the room. She seemed confident, said there was no way he could have dodged that, so this time he was dead. But of course, Ryuko already had his sword on his back going in pure grit. Actually, he was already riding on her back, saying that this wasn't her original power, and that's why she couldn't control it properly. Just by touching it, the items seemed to be kind of disappearing or interacting in a weird way. Clearly, this was a bug. The witch, desperate, tells him not to cut it, because those wings gave her freedom. She had been playing her role in this dungeon for a long time, never questioning it, just going forward. But then she found those wings on the ground, and that freed her from that magic, and she was finally able to live. Ryuki replies that if she ran away from the circumstances they were in, then they were similar in a way. He was also struggling to get out of this horrible world. The witch says that if that's the case, then they should understand each other. But our king of Instagram quotes just says that for him to reach glory, her freedom has to be destroyed. And with that, he rips off her wings, man. He even activated the sword's aura in his other hand to crush the second wing, and then she seems to have been defeated. At that same moment, all of the witch's stats go back to normal, right, and she becomes just the creature she was supposed to be in this place. She even goes back to doing the standard routine, saying that the intruder infiltrated her hideout. The poor thing is they're giving her speech, but he just stabs the sword into her chest. Yeah, this guy's not hesitating at all. And on top of that, he pulls it to the side, slicing her completely, saying that now that she's back to normal, nothing changes. He has to finish her off to keep moving forward. With that, the monster's little hand just drops to the ground, right? No mercy from the kid. In total, he received 13 standard tickets and 1 SR ticket, plus 500 experience points, a magic stone, and Suriel's heart. Ryuki was kind of disappointed. Just a little stone, a heart, and 500 points. That knight who gave 15,000 apparently was kind of abnormal. Aigon tells the kid that even with luck, he's not always going to get good stuff, man. He needs to get used to a normal life. To which he replies that it's all good and SR ticket alone was more than enough to make it worth it. Besides, what matters is breaking Linful's record. At the dungeon's entrance, the guy with the big axe is furious because they failed again. The guys are all cursing each other out, blaming each other, saying it's because he died, because he did this or that. Meanwhile, in the cave, Ryuki is coming out, hearing all the commotion. Right at that moment, one of the guys is talking about cooperation. They see our kid passing by and say it's amazing. He stayed inside for 7 hours. He must have hidden a lot. But now seeing him walking away, they figure he gave up. Time for the kid to face reality. But then a little window pops up behind the fool, showing updated dungeon info. In the witch's hideout, our guy finished in 7 hours, man. 10 hours less than Dear Linful. The guys are already wondering if this isn't the same guy who just came out of that place. Suddenly, the dude puts his sword next to Ryuki's neck and tells him to stay right there, wanting to know what little trick he used. It's impossible for someone to shave off 10 hours without using some kind of hack or something. Ryuki is honest, man. He just says there really was a bug and he exploited it to finish quickly. That's it. The good thing about honesty is that no one questions if he's lying. The bad thing is that now everyone is saying that Bastard should be ashamed for clearing a dungeon using stuff like that. But Ryuki just keeps walking, saying the bug's gone now. They better get to farming quick, or they'll stay weak forever. The sword guy tries to go at him, saying a cheating bastard like him has no right to be giving moral lessons. But our boy just dodges it easily. Maybe hits him with a punch and elbow, not sure. Maybe just shoves him. All I know is the fool ends up on all fours on the ground while our kid walks away. The guy stays there swearing he'll kill him someday, but the axe dude just says, "You idiot. We can't beat that bastard." The guy insists, but the boss tells him to stop being stupid and points out that if the kid managed to use the bug and pull it off, he should realize the truth. The group figures it out, right? If not only did he use the bug, but also managed to clear it, then clearly he was way above the level of that place. But they still find it kind of unbelievable. The boss starts to feel like he's seen that face somewhere before. He's remembering the video of the Chaos Knight, but he can't quite connect the dots. Then we see a few locations. White Lake, the Red Spider Forest, and the ruins of the ancient gods. All of these were famous dungeons where Linful's team held the record. There was still one more that might be good, but 3 was already enough for him to deal with for now. The robot wants to know why, and he explains that it seems another guild managed to take the record about 2 years ago. The skill girl from Asia group of the Ashes Guild. Guy's a little lady, huh? Up until now, is it just me, or have we not seen a proper badass waifu? True, right man? Dang, artist, what's going on, bro? Let's use that little bit of talent. Want me to lend you a compass so you can draw some circles? But Ryuki isn't worried about waifus. He's worried that damn girl came in with her record way too close to Linful's, which makes him kind of mad, since he was the one who developed the tips. Well, man, now that I notice, she has white hair, right? Could it be that damn Cynthia? And Megany? That one deserves to die, huh? Dan wretch. But then he gets up, saying enough talk, it's time to handle some dungeons. Meanwhile, inside the Demon Tower, it's Linful's group and Kasano is the one giving everyone orders. That's when a little window pops up for him. A photo of a giant octopus, maybe the boss from White Lake. There was also a photo of a spider dying, which, yeah, man, that's the spider from the Red Forest. There was even a golem there, defeated, and Linful's already telling the group to handle the loot because something urgent came up. Lying on the couch, she's wondering who this kid is. The kid was deliberately focusing on breaking his records, which showed he was looking to pick a fight. Maybe the bastard thought he was hot stuff. The boss mentioned this name, Ryuki, but no matter how much he thinks, he has no idea who this person is. Man, that's rough. The guy literally doesn't have the slightest trace of our boy's face in his memory. Right then, someone opens the door calling for Linful, saying that kid, Ryuki, is live streaming. Analyst Laguna, as always, is analyzing. And our boy posted all the records, man from the bug dungeon to Uparn, Varan, and the big golem. She can't believe he cleared all 4 dungeons and broke all the records almost simultaneously. Obviously, the result of that was nearly 2 million views in 3 days. The attention he got was expected after all the buzz with the Black Knight. There was still something she couldn't understand, like the items and his reactions. But at the same time, he was using an extremely advanced strategy that would require knowing every element of those places. Not to mention, the scariest part was that he cleared the witch's hideout, which no one had managed to do in the past 3 months. A bunch of people on the internet, right, are saying it's a bug, a cheat, or something like that. But regardless of all that, it's clear the dungeon was cleared and he's sitting there with the record. For someone who had such advanced strategies, he would need to have an extremely high-level analyst with him. What guild is backing up the kid? Poor girl, she has no idea. He's not Sung Jinwoo, but he's solo leveling. Our boy is still on his phone, says they must be really distracted now with all those videos. But compared to what he's about to release, that's nothing. Ryuki says this idea is really different from the others, since now he's basically going to declare himself an enemy. He sits down in the chair and the robot tells him to think it over. First, it'd be good to get stronger before doing something like that. Everyone still sees him as a noob, but Ryuki just thinks that even though Igon is right, he can't stall. Until this guy's given an answer, he can't stop. His mind got stuck 3 years ago, and the only thing left inside it was despair and hatred. Those were the reasons he kept on living. Our boy then started the live stream and introduced himself as Ryu 7017. Ryuki inside the game Labyrinth. It was a shame, but today's video wasn't about clearing a dungeon. Today, he was going to reveal the truth everyone wants to know. The guy started the exposed livestream, man. The first impressions were that he seemed a little more normal than they expected. Our boy then says that everyone seemed curious about the unknown written on his profile. And the truth is, that's exactly what he was, unknown in the literal sense. It was hard for them to believe that someone without an account managed to enter the Labyrinth game. But that's the truth. He didn't create an account and wasn't selected by any guild either. He guarantees that he's one of the poorest unknowns out there, man, without the slightest opportunity. And about how he's playing, he sums it up by saying that basically he just got lucky. And he doesn't care if they don't believe it, because that is the truth. Watching Linful says this bastard is trying to lie, pretending to be an unknown. Then Ryuki says he became unknown because he was falsely accused. He's making this video because he's sure that bastard Linful and the Linza Guild are watching. They better remember the face they threw into the abyss. He suffered in that hell, but he managed to escape. And now they better be ready, because their turn has come. In a room surrounded by cards, a man in a hat says it looks like an enemy of Linza has appeared. Carde says the views are no joke, and V replies that apparently now the kid's going to be hunted. The man in the hat already comments that if this is one of Linful's messes, Gabriel has surely already wiped all the data. Card V says that Linful and his crew are promising, so it's worth keeping an eye on them. But it responds that to him that team is kind of pathetic. The guy in the hat, though, wants to know what they're going to do, since Linza won't be able to ignore Ryu 7017. The 2 cards, however, aren't too motivated, saying they've already got a bunch of stuff to deal with. The man says it's fine, he'll keep watching, but maybe he'll act on his own. The cards disappear, saying they already expected that and say goodbye. The man also says goodbye, saying he'll follow the path that seems more interesting. At the Linza Guild, Gabriel is giving an interview while being bombarded by reporters. Everyone wants to know about this Ryuki and what connection he has to the guild. He reveals that yes, the boy was once part of the team, but due to an internal accident, he was expelled and no longer has any connection. The reporter, however, says the kid in the video claims he was falsely accused and wants to know if that's true. The guy answers that it's a complete lie. But the reporter insists, saying there are several other suspicious rumors about how they've been acting, ranging from malicious behavior toward other players to alleged collusion with the developers of that place. They were using their influence in the game to pressure the developers into changing how dungeons were regulated, even to the point of altering how items are acquired. As the guild leader, the reporter wants to know Gabriel's opinion on all those allegations. Like a good shady politician, he says it's all lies. Just attempts to tarnish the name of the Linza Guild. They already gathered new information about what Ryu 7017 was saying, and soon everything would go back to normal. While Gabriel was doing that live stream, someone was watching in a store. Our boy walks in and the person immediately says the whole world is talking about him. Ryuki responds that he doesn't care about any of that. What matters is, why does he leave this old man voice in such a healthy little girl body? To which the guy answers that that's the best part of having a fully prosthetic body. The only woman who even slightly dolls herself up in this story is, in fact, an old man with a robot body. What a mess. Ryuki then just says he's tired of it and wants to see the mods. But Suzuki shows him the same ones as always. Our boy immediately tells him to stop offering junk, especially since he already said he could find the person who delivers the good mods. Right then, Suzuki says he understands that Ryuki wants to talk to the person who creates the mods. He reaches under his kimono, pulls out a CD, and says this is what he was told to deliver if someone ever came looking. If someone managed to find him using the information in there, then they'd be given a chance to talk to him. Ryuki just thinks that for someone to have gone through all of this, they must be pretty powerful. Aigon takes a look and sees it's a visual mod. It would interfere with his visual system and retrieve all sorts of information. The only issue is that it's more advanced than the previous ones, so the risks are higher too. Our boy thinks he doesn't really care about that. What he really doesn't like is this feeling that he's being tested. So he starts taking his little backpack off and tells Suzuki he brought a little gift. Everything he had been hunting these last few days. Basically, the items from the record-breaking videos. He drops them on the ground and tells her to sell it all, that she'd be well compensated. Dang man, how rude. Just threw it on the floor like whatever, see ya. Walking through the streets of the city, he says he's been seeing the items from the dungeons popping up on YouTube, and it's actually bringing in some money. Obviously, Ivan told him to take advantage of that positive momentum to pull some gacha rolls. Man, time to gamble a bit. But he says no, there's one more person he needs to meet. That's when someone raises a hand and calls him. The dude with that K-pop haircut tells our boy it's been a while since they last saw each other. Ivan thinks some nutjob just showed up because no one is friends with Ryuki, right? The guy is a total loner. But when the guy greets Ryuki, the robot is shocked that the bastard actually does have a friend in this world. Looking at the guy's hand, our boy remembers Yggdrasil. From the clothes and everything. It seems like they were school friends. The guy asks if they can talk for a bit. And man, our boy is clenching his own hands so tight that his veins are popping green. He says sure, he doesn't mind talking. Damn, I thought they were friends, but clearly they're not. And the guy's already walking with him, saying it's nice to see him calm and all, while he makes a weird hand sign behind his back. There are already a bunch of guys prepping Glocks behind him, and he's saying he missed his friend. What the hell, man? There are people on the rooftops and everything. Take it easy, buddy. The jerk is throwing out that fake talk, saying he missed him, barely even recognized him. But Ryuki just says it feels like there are a lot of eyes watching the two of them. Dude, I thought a fight was gonna break out, but now we're in a cafe just chilling. The guy is apologizing for everything that happened 3 years ago. Ryuki keeps it real. He just asks if the guy really thinks his apologies make any difference. Oof, brutal. Now the guy's just sitting there with that dumb look on his face, and Ryuki wants to know if he was called there just to hear apologies. The guy says no, he's got a plan to get Ryuki back into bronze rank. Now, I don't know. Does he even realize our boy is the real Ryuki? What's going on? I'm starting to get suspicious of everything. Our boy wants to know if that's even possible, and the guy starts explaining the plan. But then, flashback time. Ryuki was calling out Garcia's name, saying there was only 1 week left until his mom's surgery. Man was on the floor like trash, clutching the guy's cards, begging him to cover the costs of the surgery. Oh man, what a bastard, he kicked Ryuki, and told him not to touch him with those filthy, disgusting hands. Yikes. And then people wonder why our boy turned out all dark and brooding. Yeesh. Next scene, he's just staring at his mom's body. And a voice even says maybe it was for the best, after all. He wouldn't have been able to cover the surgery costs anyway. For someone unknown like him, keeping up the payments would have been impossible. Obviously, Ryuki's expression didn't turn out too great after that. Back in the present, Ryuki tells the bastard to stop with the performance. With a snap of his fingers, he reveals that the guy was a developer from the game Space Alien. Which, yeah, is the one that went bankrupt. Considering he's in such a miserable state now, what kind of help could he even offer? Ryuki just gets up and says goodbye, but the guy tells him to wait, warning that if he doesn't talk to him, he'll send all the information he has about our boy to Linza. He should know very well what'll happen, since he used to work there. To be honest, what can they even do, right? Our boy doesn't seem to have any family at all. At most, they might go after him, but they're gonna do that anyway. Back in the past, when our boy handed the first tutorial over to Gabriel, at that time, Linful wasn't the top dog. It was his older brother, who praised our boy, saying that for a beginner, he was incredible. From then on, he'd keep a close eye on every guy he released. Garcia, showing the card, says he must have some idea of how terrifying that man was, so he better consider the offer. Ryuki's expression changes. He turns around, and at that moment, the guy looks confident, thinking they're finally about to negotiate. But Ryuki just snatches the paper from his hand and asks when the hell he's going to shut up. What the hell, man? Garcia's already pulling out a knife, saying that a filthy guy like him lost all sense of how to behave in this place. He lunges to attack our boy, but all he gets is a hand around his neck. Ryuki just says that the one who lost their sense of danger is him. Apparently, the fool was eager to meet death. Slams him against the wall. After all, you can't just kill someone out in the open, right, man? Then he walks off, saying it's best if he never sees his face again. Garcia quickly sends a message to the crew, warning them the target's escaping. The moment Ryuki steps out of the store, bam. 36 Glocks pointed at him, everyone shouting for him to surrender and put his hands behind his head. But in a single second, the first guy has his Glock ripped right out of his hands, and our boy pulls a move so fast, even the artist couldn't catch it. The kid's moving so fast, he's slipping out of the frames. "Come back here, kid. I can't even see you anymore." The damn witch calls out to him. She's up on the rooftop, see. Use level 3 flash step. The poor guys didn't stand a chance, and he's even impressed at how aggressive they're being. Aigon then says our boy's stress levels are spiking. What's bothering him so much? He just replies it's nothing serious. At the very least, things were now clear. He knew the next steps. First, it was time to go back to the world of the ghost. The scene shifts to Gabriel, who says he's disappointed in Garcia. Seems like that's how he repays the trust he's given. The fool apologizes, but says he has some crucial information, like, for example, that Ryuki is 25 years old. Gabriel just tells him to shut up. Honestly, that info is garbage. I'm with Gabriel on this one, man. He warns him not to say a single thing that the entire Linza guild doesn't already know. Then he says the kid got something in a random box. That's how he accessed the game. He just needed one more chance to fully investigate and figure out what really happened. Gabriel says they already know about the ticket that was acquired in that area. It was auctioned off, and he already confirmed that. What he's certain of is that someone is sponsoring Ryuki, and that's the information he wants. Garcia, though, thinks it's impossible to know which lunatic would be backing a complete nobody like him. At that, Gabriel turns around and says he wasted his time talking to trash who would betray even an unknown friend for a bit of cash. Damn, he hired the guy for the job, and now he's humiliating him for taking the job. That's harsh. The psychological damage was way too much, and here he comes, pulling out that knife again. Hey man, you really need to drop that habit. Yeah, you stepped forward, it put a hand on your head, and you kissed the pavement. Too smart for your own good. Man, it was Gabriel who landed the hit. I thought it was like a security guard from behind, but the guy's just that fast. He says that apparently this bronze must be out of his mind for trying to attack a member of Jinza. Normally, he'd have to be killed, but out of mercy, he'll just let him become an unknown. Now the idiot's being dragged away, begging for forgiveness, saying he doesn't want to become an unknown. Yeah, but too late, man. He's going. That dude with no self-control totally earned that demotion. And now Gabriel's deep in thought. He remembers that bastard actually was a decent analyst, but that was it. There was no way to compare that Ryuki with Linful, who was the obvious pick. But somehow, that kid always had something special about him. It was time to find out just what the secrets of that account really were. Back in the ghost world, our boy drops into the city like thunder, now showing up fully geared in his little armor. And Aigon is always already telling him to roll. Time to hit the gacha. But our boy's got more important things to do. He says he wants a crowd around to see what's about to happen. The views on his videos keep climbing, and he knows it won't be long before those guys make their move. Especially since those bastards are the biggest guild in the ghost world. He takes off his helmet, saying it's time to spring the trap. Right then, people start pointing, saying to check him out. Everyone seems to recognize him, right? The unknown from the video everyone's been talking about. Ryuki had 92 tickets, 5 guaranteed SRs, and 8,500 points. First things first, he starts with a 10-roll man. The items drop in front of him, full of useless stuff as always. He gets all bummed out. No SRs came. And the robot says that, unfortunately, there's no guarantee with boxes. The only thing he can guarantee is that he'll laugh in the protagonist's face. And there he is, spamming laughter across the screen while our boy's just sitting there with a mountain of trash. He's lost the will to live, wondering how he didn't get anything with a 3.6% chance. Aigon tells him not to give up. No true gacha addict would stop here. That's when he grabs the SR cards and says that, actually, now the game begins. The first one gives him a Phoenix Feather SR rank, a necklace that lets you resurrect once. Considering that a bunch of the bosses in the game have those instant-death attacks, it might actually be worth it. Second box drops, he's sure this time he's getting a weapon or a sick ability. But what's inside is an SR rank toothbrush. The robot congratulates him, saying now he's officially the king of toothbrushes. But Ryuki's confused. There has to be something special about this so-called magic toothbrush. There's no way it's just normal. Aigon explains that the little star next to the name means it's a special item, which means he can actually use it in the real world. He wants to know what the hell he's supposed to do with that in the real world, and the robot says, well, he can brush his teeth and destroy any cavity. Ryuki throws a punch in frustration, but the damn robot dodges. The problem now is that he's only got 3 cards left, and with each bad pull, the chances of getting something good are slipping away. So he decides to open the last 3 all at once. Usually that's when something good pops out. He's biting his lip, begging for a decent weapon. But what he pulls are 3 copies of the sort of weapon. The robot is dying of laughter, while everyone watches him lying defeated on the ground. He's wrecked, doesn't understand how he spent all those tickets and still ended up with nothing. The people nearby are kind of confused, not really sure what's going on. I'm not sure if they can even see what he's doing, like the items popping out. I don't think they can. And the guy next to him is already thinking about reporting him to Linza so they can come kill the kid. Then Aigon says he's got some good news for the protagonist. After pulling so many SR-ranked items, he finally unlocked the combination system. He can't reveal what other features exist in that system, but just know there are more. Our boy wants to know why the robot didn't just say that sooner, instead of laughing in his face, which is still twisted up dancing around, saying it's irresistible to laugh at a sucker like him. Then the system appears. They have both ability combination and item combination. And under item, there was also undo, which let him break items down into random box points instead of combining them. The combination itself doesn't have much mystery, right, man? You combine 2 items, and they get upgraded. He combines 2 swords, and it shows up with a little plus sign at the end. Right away, he wants to know if there's a limit to how many times he can combine something. He puts 2 already combined swords into the system, and again, it looks like it's working. Excited, he jumps in shouting, "Combine it." Man, I thought it was going to fail, but no, it really upgraded and the thing turned massive. It's the Grand Sword, now with the name IGG at the end. Apparently, now it really can be used like a pistol from far away, because before it kinda only half worked, like it was jammed or something. He's laughing like a maniac, and the robot says his vital signs are starting to get weird. Then he spends the rest of his points to upgrade his parry to level 5. And now he's got an SRIGG with a star at the end, right? That part we already knew. He can use it in real life. That's when he starts wondering what happens if he combines 2 skills that are already maxed out. The system shows that he could gain the skill Sword Saint, Heavenly Sword, or Sword God, which immediately makes him blow up at Igon, asking why even the skill combinations are completely random. To which the robot replies that it wouldn't be any fun without a little bit of luck. He should just keep going to try and pull a Transcendental plus rank skill. Our boy wants to know what the odds are of getting one of those. The robot says an incredible 2%. Dude's out of his mind and decides to go for it. What if he gets lucky? But all he pulls is Sword Saint. It was basically max mastery and defense at level 3, with sword energy at level 1. It also granted bonus SP when leveled up, but since it's not fully maxed out, he can still evolve it more. He's about to say something to Igon when suddenly someone approaches from the side. The guy puts a sword to his neck and asks if he's Ryu 7017. Our boy thanks him, saying finally Linza sent someone. He was starting to think they were taking too long. He starts to say it's crazy to go for a PK inside the city, but the guy just slashes his throat. The footed man says he shouldn't worry about such insignificant things. The PK rule only says you can't kill anyone, but it doesn't say anything about inflicting pain. Ryuki knows this is Linza's usual strategy, especially since the sensation is way too realistic. So he asks why the guy's even wearing a mask when it's obvious he's from Linza. Man, I don't know if it's another guy, but he gets hit with another sword strike, this time in the back. And the man warns him to understand that from now on, he'll never know peace in this game. Wherever he hides, they'll follow and kill him. Ryuki turns and says it's hilarious how this whole world belongs to Linza. The guy tells him to keep laughing, because soon the only thing he'll be doing is screaming in pain. But on the next attack, Ryuki activates Flash Step and grabs the sword. He gets right up close to the guy and says 3 hits were enough for him not to be seen as the villain in this scene. The masked man then realizes the kid was holding back from the very beginning, and now he's the one getting cut. Everyone nearby can feel the guy's pain. Man, the knife's being driven straight into his back now too. Ryuki wants to know what happened to the guy who was supposed to be hunting him all over the game and making him scream in pain. Normally in this world, the more defense you have, the less pain you feel. But our boy, yeah man, he doesn't follow the rules of the game. And apparently the guy is trying to log out, but he can't. Ryuki says that's good to know. In a place where no one can die, it's the perfect setting to let someone sit there suffering. He keeps spinning his sword back and forth, saying this revenge is only just getting started. That's when Igon warns him to be careful. A bunch of hooded figures surround him from all sides. One of them, with a brooch on his shoulder, calls out to Ryuki and says he'll get straight to the point. It would be best if Ryuki left the ghost world, and even better if he stopped being a player altogether. If he agreed, they'd let this go. Ryuki, who draws his second sword, says they're being way too generous offering him such a noble favor. He stabs the guy in the back again and says that they were the ones who provoked him first. The bridge guy replies that clearly this bastard was more dangerous than he expected. Ryuki tells him to run, but the guy says that's not an option. Besides, he's curious to know what that sword is. Ryuki tells him to take off the mask and he'll explain, but the guy just answers that that's not going to happen. He says Ryuki should have used the bugs he got to live a peaceful and hidden life, but he wanted too much attention. And now he found himself in trouble. A shame, really, but his plans end here. Right at that moment, all the masked guys attack Ryuki, who's just standing there like a fool, but he dodges the first strike and takes a step back to avoid the second. The guy with the blue bangs is coming from behind, thinking Ryuki isn't half bad, but this is where it ends. Only Ryuki already activated Sword Saint and slashed the first attacker. Apparently, the guy managed to defend himself, but his whole sword cracked. He couldn't understand how someone who hadn't even reached the Demon Tower was already using Aura. A technique like that normally burned a ridiculous amount of mana, so using it like this was insane. He decides to try again, saying that weak Aura won't do anything, but Ryuki just deflects it using his sword, which has its own aura, and says they probably don't even realize what he's doing. He strikes the guy in the chest, and another one's down, or rather just incapacitated, since no one dies here. The leader, at least, is smart. He sees how quickly Ryuki blocked with aura and wonders if it's a parry, like in some other games. Ryuki just replies that they're starting to realize the more they try, the worse it'll get. To help them make up their minds, he reveals that his ability doesn't consume mana, which means right now he's the only one who won't get tired. Before the guys can even process what he just said, bam, another sword strike hits dead center on someone's head. Judging by the blood sound, that thing went in deep. Speaking of going in deep, there's a little white-haired girl. Is that you, Cynthia? You sneaky snake. You think I forgot your name. The other guy's leg is messed up, and the leader tells them to be careful. Somehow, the pain from this kid's attacks feels worse. They shift into a hide-and-leaf formation, each one drawing their class setups and all that. At that moment, Ryuki replies that if someone was pulling out Nightfall, then they're not trying to hide anymore. He knows all too well a dual sword user known as Cassius. Not as famous as Linful, but still well-known, and definitely not someone people would want to find out what he's been up to. Cassius activates a binding magic, Oliva, to paralyze the kid so they can go in for the finisher. Chains rise from the ground and wrap around Ryuki. Everyone starts prepping their best abilities, and 3 attacks come flying toward our boy. Cassius knows how parry works. If there's nothing solid for it to counter, it doesn't work properly. And judging by Ryuki's face, looks like he's right man. Glitter explosion everywhere. But when the smoke clears, someone's just standing there untouched. He's got that dumb look on his face while Aigon explains that now that the ability has evolved, it can also defend against non-physical attacks. Even so, Ryuki's swinging his sword around, saying he's kind of disappointed. Looks like he'll have to be more careful with long-range fighters. Man, before Darius could even say anything, he took a bullet straight to the chest, dropped like trash to the ground, calling for backup. Our boy says it's really sad to see their boss go down with just one little bullet. He hadn't even started having fun yet. But the guys are completely confused. How the hell does this bastard have a revolver firing in the middle of a fantasy world? Our boy is there holding 3 massive revolvers, man. Against monsters like golems, they're not much use. But against humans, it's a different story. Especially in a world like this, where that kind of item shouldn't even exist. He warns them that everyone who came after him today is going to leave here crawling. Somewhere, someone's watching a screen, just listening to the sound of gunfire. It looks like a weirdly warped teddy bear saying things are starting to get interesting. Back in the scene, Ryuki's disappointed by how weak these guys are. Aigon explains that these guys just play based on in-game stats, right? They don't even try to dodge anything, and that's why they can't handle a gun. Plus, he was keeping them pinned in place so they just stay there writhing in pain. Ryuki walks up with a smug look, saying that as high-ranking members of Linza, these guys probably have some kind of mental defense. Suddenly, he senses something and dives to the side. An attack slams into the ground and blows the whole area apart. Well, man, not only that, now a rain of attacks is coming down on the poor guy. He recognizes it as meteor rain, definitely the skill of a certain someone, and he wants to know if it's the person he's thinking of. Right then, a transfer stone drops next to him, and in a split second, Ryuki vanishes. The people in the city are all confused, while Cassius wonders if those guys are going to get personally involved. Somewhere else, our boy is running while attacks keep hitting his back. Man, when he looks back, Linful showed up. What the hell? The guy teleported him? This dude's hacking too, huh? And the bastard says that now that no one's watching, things will get better. He wasn't going to ignore all the noise Ryuki's been making. He already throws his spear at his back and asks if he's ready for the pain he's about to feel. Aigon warns that Ryuki's heart rate is spiking. Our protagonist thinks about how he's imagined this moment countless times in his head. He turns to Linful and says the only thing he wants to know is, does he remember who he is? Oh man, the villain with his Alzheimer moment says he really doesn't remember. He thought seeing the kid up close would jog his memory, but nothing. Not a single thing came to mind. So now he wants to know why the kid is trying to ruin his life like this. That hits Ryuki like a brick. He can't believe that the bastard who ruined his life doesn't even remember anything. Then Linful puts a hand to his face and keeps repeating to himself, Ryuki, and suddenly turns and says, yeah, he really doesn't remember. You scumbag. I really thought he was going to say, I remember. But nope, he has no clue. He just asks if Ryuki feels wronged by the fact that he doesn't even know who he is. But honestly, he doesn't care, because now that Ryuki's done all this, he's going to have to pay the price. At the very least, he hopes he won't leave here disappointed. Alright man, the fight's really about to go down now, and Ryuki tells him not to worry. He had no intention of holding back. The two of them are standing still. It's full NM vibes, the beatdown is about to start. Linful charges up an attack at the tip of his spear, and our boy already knows what's coming. He charges forward super fast, he dodges. Linful gives a little impressed smile that Ryuki managed to escape with that little jump. But our boy curled up like a turtle man. He's not looking too brave, hands shaking all over. Here comes another attack from Linful. He manages to block it, but the guy keeps the combo going, man. Ryuki couldn't believe this guy was that strong, and not even Perry was giving him a solid chance to defend. Another hit. He's sent sliding backward. Linful says maybe he's going to have to reevaluate the kid. The entertainment wasn't bad. He's tired of this game that's become just a big XP farm. Back in the day, everyone played just for fun. He lands more strikes and says Ryuki is lucky too. He's learning from someone with real talent. He twirls the spear in his hand, comes down from above, activating the meteor strike attack. Man, our boy tries to block, but it stops him cold. Looks like he managed to defend it, but it felt like his arm nearly broke. He keeps reactivating parry while Linful keeps the pressure with the spear. But man, talk about SR sword mastery. The hit flung him away. This time it's me saying, finally. He created an opening to attack, but the bastard was way faster and almost landed a spear in his mouth. Ryuka couldn't believe it. Linful got hit by the parry and still reacted faster than him. Then Linful says it's interesting that he has parry, since that skill shouldn't even exist in the ghost world. So now he's gonna level up the heat and see how long the kid can last. Next attack, Ryuki dodges by throwing his head to the side. Problem is, even when he lands a parry, a guy counters faster than he can even react. Considering he's analyzed Linful a lot already, he knows part of it is thanks to that weapon he's using. Linful charges again, saying he's impressed the kid is still standing. The weapon he's got is the Starlight Spear. Its effect is that the more you attack, the faster it gets. So eventually, not even parry combined with intuition would be enough to keep up. Ryuki goes on the offensive, and finally, Linful has to block something. It's his first real chance to counterattack, and he goes for it. But judging by the change in expression, you know it didn't go well. The spear is already lodged in his chest. Linful says it's a shame. Just 3 more seconds and Ryuki would have set a new record. But apparently he wasn't even worth remembering after all. It was a good fight. That's all it was. He tosses his body to the ground and says that, to be honest, it was actually disappointing. It was ridiculous for him to think he'd win with the abilities he had. Besides, he explains, even if Ryuki wanted to die in this place, he couldn't. That's because it was a free zone for PK. Even though it looked like a village, it was actually an abandoned area. If he wants to blame someone, let it be the developers who left those bugs in the game. I think he explained all that because, in theory, you're only supposed to be able to force teleport someone into a town. Don't know the exact rules. What I do know is that Linful wants to know who's backing the kid, to which Ryuki tells him to ask Cynthia. Suddenly, Linful's expression changes. He grabs Ryuki by the neck, demanding to know if he knows who she is and where that wretched girl is hiding. Ryuki just laughs, saying that it looks like he got betrayed too. It's true, man. I told you, Cynthia, from the Ace Guild. Right. Linful is there, shouting, but our boy's consciousness was already slipping away. Man, he's on his way out. He pulls out a flashbang, and while Linful is mid-sentence, it explodes right next to him. Our boy backs off, and the guy asks if he really thinks he's going to win using toys like that. Then Ryuki says to him, "Stop asking who's backing me. I don't need help to kill trash like you." The blondie's already got the veins bulging on his forehead, and Ryuki tells him that, yeah, he's got that little memory issue, but today he's going to make sure he doesn't forget. That's because now he's going in with 50%. Aigon is confused, and Linful asks if he's gone insane. You don't just take a beating and then suddenly say you're going to use half your power. That doesn't make sense. Aigon's trying to talk him out of it, and our boy just says he's given up on useless emotions. I don't really get what this 50% thing is. Is he using those CDs? What's going on? Maybe it'll get explained later. Anyway, he charges in, focusing entirely on intuition. He tries to go for a knee strike, thinks about activating Flash Step, but gets kicked straight in the head and slammed into a wall. Bro, all that dramatic talk for this? Before you can even blink, Linful's already launched a spear strike that nearly hits him in the eye. He just manages to pull away in time. Linful says the kid's lucky they're in a no PK area, otherwise this would have ended fast. Ryuki, though, is just realizing that his arm can't take much more. Then the blonde says it'd be a real shame to fight in the city. It'd draw too much attention, and afterward, he gets scolded by the boss. Tired of all that chatter, Ryuki tells him to shut up, vanishes, and suddenly appears behind him. But man, Blondie's grinning again. Without even looking back, he just slashes and cancels out our boy's movement. Then he activates Meteor Rain on his spear again. This time it lands clean. Yeah, our boy's taking a beating. Honestly, I'm with you. I think it was way too early for him to fight this guy. The dude only cleared 4 dungeons so far. The blonde even mocks him, asking if it's time to up the power on that supposed 50%, since he's getting wrecked. Our boy tries to get up while the guy's laying into him, telling him to try a bit harder. It's been too easy. The bastard's even tapping the spear on the ground, saying this revenge story of his is way too weak. He grabs Ryuki by the collar and tosses him into the air, saying it's a shame he wants to keep playing, but now it's time to end this. He launches an attack into the sky that slices our boy clean in half. But just before he hits the ground, Ryuki manages to activate Flash and causes a full-on explosion. Then Linful turns to a window that just popped up in front of him. It's Gabriel telling him to stop the fight immediately and return now. But Ryuki gets back up and says, wait. Linful can't believe the bastard is still standing after taking that hit straight on. That's not the kind of thing someone can survive with sheer willpower alone. Hygon explains that when he's using 50%, he feels less pain, but it also slows down his movements. What he doesn't get is why use a strategy like that. Is he some kind of masochist who wants to suffer longer? But Ryuki just replies that he can't give up there, he needs to take advantage of this opportunity. As Linful walks toward him, Ryuki asks if he's afraid of Gabriel. The guy's expression changes and Ryuki says, looks like I hit the nerve, huh? Just the fact that Gabriel showed up proves no one's backing Linful right now. He's sure that at this moment, Gabriel must be furious. And in the middle of that conversation, our boy was already drawing a rusty dagger. And when Linful goes to say something, gets stabbed in the neck. The bastard lets out a scream and Ryuki tells him, calm down, it was just a little cut, nothing serious. But for a guy like him, who plays loaded with items to reduce any sensation of pain, it definitely must feel different. That's because, well, Ryuki's attacks ignore any kind of pain-dampening items, and the pain still hits the same. Linful's cursing and swearing, but Ryuki just says, now this is what I wanted. Let's see you raise all that hell again. Stop whining and come at me already. Here comes Blondie again. But this time, Ryuki seems to be able to redirect his spear. Now the guy's confused, looked like the kid was reading his movements. And the truth is, it's something like that. Back when Ryuki was still an analyst, he reviewed everything Linful ever did over and over again. He already knows every pattern, every habit, every combat style the guy has. And considering Linful's probably never experienced this kind of pain before, his focus must be completely shot, which gives Ryuki the upper hand. While dodging, Linful mutters to himself that he needs to end this fast. He charges up a combo attack on his spear, saying it's all or nothing now. He activates one skill to boost attack speed, one to power up skills, another to double the next attack's damage, and a final one to increase crit chance. This is a combo he only ever uses on the bosses of the tower, but now he has no choice. He's got to burn it on the kid. Ryuki immediately recognizes it. It's Celestial Meteor Rain. He knows he can use the terrain to his advantage to get away from this guy. He just has to make sure not to step out of the PK zone. He starts running, but Linful gets closer, saying he's still too slow. Until suddenly, bam, a wooden doll smacks Linful right in the face. Our boy starts creating as much distance as possible, setting off a rain of random junk items from those trashy roulette boxes he's always opening. Problem is, Linful walks through everything like it's nothing and goes in for another spear strike from behind. The attack slices half the mountain, and Linful grumbles, saying this kid is seriously annoying. Ryuki is down, but he managed to dodge a direct hit. And now, while holding the spear, he says, finally, I got you right where I wanted. Linful tells him to take his filthy hands off that weapon and not stain it with his rotten blood. But Ryuki starts pulling the spear, saying he's excited to show him something really fun. Oh man, is this it? That's SSR you mentioned way back. The one he said he was saving for Linful. He apparently tested it earlier on Surreal's wings, something that wasn't even a skill or an item. Linful's confused, wants to know what the hell is happening to his spear. And oh man, the spear starts disintegrating. Ryuki had unlocked the SSR system, man, and just deleted his spear. Yet we're crossing over with that Charles-C storyline from the other day. Full system level stuff now. The spear crumbles into dust, and Linful is standing there, not understanding what just happened. Looking at his hand, the dude's on the verge of tears. That was a unique item, and now it's not even in his inventory anymore. This game doesn't even have a destruction mechanic, so how is this possible? He's convinced the bastard is using some kind of cheap trick. But right then, bang, Ryuki shoots him in the shoulder. Our boy says, I was aiming for your heart, but you reacted pretty fast. Linful's still confused, wants to know where the hell this guy got a pistol. Ryuki just tells him to stop crying and explains, the very data that registered your spear in this world, it's gone. There's no bringing it back. That's the power of his skill, SSR delete, a system-level ability that overrides even the game's own authority and erases the data of items inside the labyrinth. The only activation condition, you'd have to hold the target object for 5 seconds, and it can only be used 4 times a week. Linful pulls another spear from his inventory, saying he doesn't know what tricks this bastard's using, but he'll finish him off with any weapon. But at that moment, Ryuki is already backing away, taunting. Come on then, try and catch me. The idiot comes charging in, shouting that he's not letting him get away. But then, stepping where he shouldered, Linful steps on a bomb. Man, our boy is the king of FPS, seriously. As soon as the guy got hit by the bomb, Ryuki followed up with more shots to the chest. Then Ryuki says, you better stand real still, Linful. This whole area is covered in mines. The guy's expression shifts. Once again, this bastard had some item that Linful had no idea how it was even created. And with the very next step, click. Ryuki just says it's stupid to think he hadn't planned for this. Linful's desperate, but our boy tells him to think real hard. Any movement now is extremely risky. And on top of that, He lets him know that this entire setup has been in place since the moment Linful made his first move. That's because Ryuka already knew all of Linful's patterns, and he knew that once he started making noise, he'd be dragged exactly to this spot. All Linful can do now is be grateful for having fallen right into the trap. Linful gets tired of hearing all that and charges toward him. But of course, boom, the mine under his foot goes off. When the smoke starts clearing, he spots something in the distance, but it's clearly a decoy doll. He rushes in, slamming an attack through its head, yelling that he finally won. But only he hadn't noticed what was obvious to everyone. And now Ryuki is standing right beside him, counting down from 5 to 1. At 0, boom, another spear disintegrates. He's got a gun pointed right at Linful's face, and the guy realizes, looks like the kid wasn't lying. Maybe the Starlight Spear really was deleted. Ryuki activates ignition and slams Linful into a boulder. The guy's down, groaning that sooner or later, Ryuki is going to pay for this. But the moment he tries to log out, the request is cancelled. He wonders why, and bam, sword to the back. Of course, it's Aigon, stopping him from logging out. Ryuki says he's being way too serious to let him run away at a moment like this. He slams Linful's face into the ground and calls out, Linful Darius, do you remember the guy who used to be an analyst in your guild, named Ryuki? Linful asks why he remembers something like that. I'll never remember who you are. Ryuki asks if he really won't remember, even if it means never being able to play again. He reminds him, each person is only allowed one account in the game. And what would happen if he used his ability and deleted that account? Maybe then, you'd never forget my face. Linful shouts at him to take his hands off, but Ryuki starts counting. 5, 4, 3. And then we see, when Gabriel first holds someone to look into this Ryu 7017. 2, 1. Linful's still pretending not to care, scratching his ear, saying he doesn't give a damn about that person. 0. The guy screams, and just like that, he's deleted. Now, I don't know if he's really gone, if he's ever coming back, or what just happened exactly. But Vigon's praising him, saying he did it. But man, Ryuki, the demon of vengeance, just says he hasn't done anything yet. This was only the beginning. There were still plenty of people who had to pay for what they did. And oh man, behind the rock, there she is. White-haired girl, drawing a blade, probably our dear Cynthia. She throws a dagger wrapped in dark energy straight at him. But what's this? Full-on Giga Chad mode, he catches it midair. He was about to ask who that person was when suddenly, Aigon warns him to be careful. In a flash, he finds himself trapped in some kind of strange black cube. It looked like a spatial transfer, but at the same time, something about it was different. Then someone approaches, saying, "It's been a while, Ryuki." He asks who it is, and the figure introduces themselves as Gazazia. He remembers that was the name of the person ranked number 2. The weird thing is, he's never seen this one before. And man, now that I'm saying this, I'm remembering. I spoiled this 26 chapters ago, didn't I? She pulls off the cloak, and I hate to say it, but damn, the woman's stunning. Obviously, though, deep down in our hearts and souls, we will never forgive this woman for betraying our boy. Right then, he remembers that fake little smile and her standing next to Linful. He's having a full-on breakdown, calling her Cynthia, but she says that was just a disguise. Her real name is Asia. Whoa, man, our boy is seriously unhinged now, laughing like the Joker. He says he doesn't care what her real name is. Because of what she did, he got kicked out of the guild, became an unknown, and lost everything he had. And yet she still showed up to find him. That means she must want to die. Cynthia, no, Asia, says she's been looking for him for years. She never imagined he would become a player. Ryuki responds that all of this only happened because of the hatred he felt toward her, Linful, and the entire Ginza guild. So she better get to the point fast, because if she doesn't, he's about to go in for the kill. Asia says he's really changed over the past 3 years, but she'll get straight to it. She tells him he should drop the revenge against Linza. He asks why she's saying that, and she replies that soon they'll start tracking his family in real life, and he should start worrying about his mom. Man, I thought she didn't know, but out of nowhere she says, "Oops, forgot. She's already dead, huh? My bad." Okay, this woman's asking to get sliced. Our boy's gripping his sword now, saying this damn woman must have a death wish. He charges in, saying that if that's the case, he'll gladly grant it. The blade lands right in her stomach, but weirdly, even so, she just dodges to the side. Then she starts running for that dagger, and he's a little confused. That thing looks special. But the second she reached for it, slice. Someone cuts off her hand. Yo, our boy's moving fast. He's already behind her, slashes her neck too, and says she's way too slow, didn't stand a chance. As she vanishes, Aze says she never realized just how deep his hatred had gotten. Wait, vanishing? Not dying, reconstituting right beside him. She says that clearly defeating Linful wasn't luck after all. She says she's leaving now, and he fires some shots. But clearly, they're doing nothing to her. She says she was just curious to see what would happen. Never thought he'd actually beat Linful. Aigon warns him that dagger is a real bug. People keep calling him a bud all the time, but truth is, he just has a broken system. What she's using is something artificially created. He says he doesn't care, but it looks like he understands now. He won't be able to kill her just yet. Cynthia says that destroying the Linza Guild is a job she's going to take care of. She has no idea what trick he pulled to take down Linful, but she wants to see what he'll do when that guy comes back. Ryuki simply answers, I don't want to stop my revenge, and I don't care about the consequences. She tries to warn him that he'll regret it, but he just says, you'll never see Linful again in this game. I deleted his account, and honestly, it was beautiful watching him cry. And he guarantees that when he finds her again, the outcome will be the same. Still, I'm curious, did you really delete the guy's account? Can you actually delete someone permanently like that? 4 deletes per week? That's busted. Outside the scene, Ryuki notes that damn bug woman really managed to shut down what he could do. And the most terrifying part was that strange dagger she was using. When she threw it, apparently he should have dodged instead of grabbing it. But at the time, he didn't feel any danger from it. He's going to need more info and allies to figure out exactly what that thing is. Then he asks Igegon if that thing is ready. Igon says yes, the dates line up. They're finally going to meet the person who creates the mods. And it looks like this time, it's that creepy little bear, who, by the way, was watching this whole mess go down and was thinking of logging off. But yeah, Ryuki's totally hacking, man. He's watching through some virtual screen and tells the teddy bear straight up, I'm not letting you log out. The bear apologizes, saying he was just watching the fight out of curiosity. But our boy just replies, we're meeting tomorrow, 8 p.m., at Suzuki's shop. Ah, so that's what was going on. He was watching everything through the screen in Igon. Now it all makes sense. The bear agrees, says he'll meet him there, but he wants to ask about a strange signal drop that happened earlier. Ryuki realizes that even this guy didn't really understand what Cynthia did. Since he doesn't feel like revealing anything, he just replies, you've asked too many questions for someone in your position. Next scene, we're already arriving at Suzuki's shop. Our boy walks in, complaining, this is ridiculous. I take around time and the guy doesn't show. Suzuki asks what he's talking about. Hadn't he noticed? The mod creator's already here. Ryuki grabs him by the collar, telling him to stop joking around. But suddenly, someone says, I'm here. When Ryuki turns his head, the teddy bear comes down the stairs and says he's the one who creates the mods. Man, I thought he'd be bigger, but our boy just picks him up in one hand. He's tiny. The poor bear's squeaking that he's being crushed while Ryuki yells at him to cut the nonsense. Out of nowhere, Suzuki throws himself onto the table, and our boy's like, what the hell is going on now? Then the bear says it's probably easier to show than explain. In that moment, he was moving his consciousness. The person talking to Ryuki is the mod creator named 5555, and at the same time, the person across the counter speaking to him is also him and also Suzuki. Looks like the little robot now has Suzuki's voice, right? The author of this story didn't really think through the whole voice switch thing for identifying characters in the manhwa, huh? Ryuki doesn't believe it, but Igon confirms it really is the same person. Seems like it's a consciousness that manages multiple bodies, each with a different personality. Then Ryuki realizes the nutjob must be using some sort of mod to alter his own personality. The teddy bear puts his hands on his hips and says, finally, you figured it out. Then he congratulates him for killing Linful, says the ending was incredible. He wants to know how he made the guy disappear. What are the limits of the ability? How many times can you use it? Is there a cost? How does it work? Looks like the voice changed again. So our boy knows this is now 5555, the mod creator's core personality, not Suzuki's. Ryuki says he's not answering anything until he tells him who he really is. 55 says he'll get to that, but first warns, you need to be careful. Don't let anyone find out you have the delete ability. Ryuki just shrugs and says, too late. Igon had already recorded, edited, and uploaded the whole thing. From now on, this fight with Linful would go all the way. 55 is freaking out. You're insane. You broadcasted that. The whole Linza Guild was going to start hunting him in every corner of the world. Ryuki replies, that's exactly what I want. The bear gives up, man. He's already realized that this kid wants to be hunted. Then he asks if Ryuki even knows who's really chasing him. Our boy's a bit confused, but then the bear logs out and Suzuki gets up. He snaps his fingers and says, okay, let's take a look at this first. Holographic aerial view pops up minus 100 meters around the mall. Behind a wall, we see those gangsters from way back at the start. Ryuki's actually a little sad that those losers still haven't given up. But the most important detail is the other guys, right in front of them. It's the Iron Blood Group, a criminal syndicate that rules the underworld. Fortunately, they had no connections to Linza. The boss of that group retired after an accident. Rumors say that Linza caused that accident. Ryuki gets what Suzuki is implying. These guys wouldn't have ties to Linza since Linza screwed over their people. But now he really wants to know. Okay, but who are you, Suzuki? The shopkeeper replies, all right, since you figured it out, it's time we went somewhere a little more appropriate. Next scene, they're walking through the sewers and Suzuki says that he and all his clones share the same goal and are looking for allies to help with it. Meanwhile, Igon is running an analysis and tells our guy that, at the moment, he's not in any danger. Then he enters a room full of puppets, and Suzuki explains that this is where he keeps his best creations. Our boy approaches one of them, and Igon says it's impressive that a human was able to create something like that. Ryuki, however, isn't that interested in those bodies and asks if he should call them 5555, Suzuki, or what. Suzuki tells him to call him Suzuki when he's human and 5555 when he's a bear. That's when he's in hacker mode. My god, son, give me a real name already. Suzuki then says he's going to explain exactly who he is, and Igon pulls up some data. The name was no name, the age between 20 and 30, and the gender was female. Okay, you can come out of the shadows now, girl. And the damn girl says that's all anyone knows about her. Obviously, Ryuki's confused since that's basically nothing. He asks if she really doesn't know anything about herself. Could it be that these personality shifts mess with her head? She answers yes, kind of like that, and asks if he's ever heard of Accident 707. It was a plane crash with no survivors. But the truth is, there was one person who made it out, burned to a crisp but still alive. That person was torn apart in a lab until there was nothing left, and then a crazy guy shoved her inside an android body. Damn, boys, the dream of meeting a badass waifu is dead. She got barbecued. And it gets worse. He asks if she's the sole survivor, and she says actually they are. As a result of the experiment, she had countless memories implanted in her. She doesn't know if they're souls, minds, stories, or whatever, but she can control each one artificially. Ryuki's already realizing there's no way to make sense of this crazy girl, so he just asks what kind of deal she wants. Suddenly, she tosses him a notebook saying she wants in on the revenge too. Online, all anyone's talking about is the beatdown Linful took along with his guild guys. He didn't even look like the same person anymore. The only thing people found weird was that the whole deletion thing seemed fake. Especially because, in this game, deletion isn't allowed, so, it should have been impossible. But then the question is, if it's fake, why hasn't Linful shown up and proven to everyone it's a lie? Whether he is Linful Phi surrounded by bottles and drunk. He throws one at the wall and looks at the system window. It says account verification failed. No data found. The dude laughs, saying not to mess with him. It's impossible this could have happened. He was Linful, the strongest in Linza. The good thing about our guy not having a waifu, a mom, or anyone, at least there's no one for them to take revenge on, right? Only thing left is to beat him up. A little earlier, Linful was banging on the table, calling for his brother and asking for one more chance. But Gabriel says the idiot ignored him, went to fight alone, and even lost his own account. Obviously, now he's screwed. Linful was freaking out, saying he got caught off guard. He just needed a new account and everything would change. From now on, he'd do whatever Gabriel said. All he needed was someone else's account or a creation pass. Gabriel, however, just says that for someone who's been playing for so long, Linful is pretty damn ignorant. He's ashamed to share the same blood. The rule is simple. One account, one person, that's it. If he lost it, there's no way to get it back. And now his time is up. Damn man got kicked out by his own brother. Linful tells him to stop being ridiculous. That useless loser actually became a player, so why couldn't he? He breaks free from the guys and tells them to move. He's going to fix this. Yeah, right, you're gonna fix it. Already got tossed out like garbage. The brother says there's a lot of mess to clean up now, so Linful better never show his face there again. The dumb blondie can't believe that the guys who used to be scared to even look him in the eye are now treating him like this. That's when someone comes up from behind and asks if he's Linful Darius. But the blonde guy just tells him to get lost. He's not in the mood, and it's better for bums not to get close. Still, the guy hands him a cart and says he's there to help him. Apparently, Linful's in need of the kind of power they can offer. He asks if he's interested in hearing the proposal. If I'm not mistaken, that's the same guy from that room with the H and V cards, right? Back with our player, he found out that Linza is holding back the progress of all the other players in the Ghost world. Looks like it's some kind of trade-off between them and the developers, since that way the devs have less work and give them a few perks in return. Hygon responds that they're truly pathetic. No wonder the final product, this game here, is just a buggy mess. Then Suzuki says this is a secret pact between the Linza Guild and Rathian Soft, the developer. But it was ridiculous that they made a pact like this just to delay everyone's development. Ryuki says he gets it, but the whole game is basically backed by Yggdrasil and Rathian Soft works for them. So how are they supposed to go against a company that practically has the whole game development in its hands? Suzuki responds that they need to be eradicated from this world because in the past, they used to lead the development. But now, they're just rotting and holding this place back. Ryuki says her hatred seems way too intense for something that simple. That's when she brings up the plane crash, the 707 accident, and explains that what exploded that day was an item taken from Yggdrasil. Obviously, he immediately concludes that she must think Rathian, the developer, was behind it, and she answers that she's sure of it. Ryuki knows that just killing the Linza Guild would already be hard enough, but taking down Rathian would basically mean destroying the Ghost world. So he asks her if that's what she wants. She says they don't need a dumb game like this, even if it supplies half the society's resources. Everything Rathian's been releasing lately is nothing but garbage. And because of the lack of progress in the games, the resources are slowly drying up. Things are stable for now, but in 5 years, there's no guarantee they'll stay that way. They can't let a bunch of incompetent people monopolize the development of the gods game. Ryuki knows the main objective of this game was to conquer the Demon Tower. The problem is, Linza controls everything here. He was planning to take over that place too. On the other hand, Suzuki's plan is basically to destroy the entire platform. That's when Aigon tells the master that they should go ahead and do it because for a game of the gods, this so-called ghost world is just a poorly made piece of trash. Just a dry, withered branch trying to hang on, and they need to help it get cut off. Ryuki then says he really liked the story, but apparently forgot the reason he came there. He stretches out his hand and tells her to hand over the mods. Later on, climbing the stairs, Aigon says that this disguised mod, one of the 13 new ones he received, seems pretty good. Ryuki says it really was an interesting trade, but he's still curious to know more about that incident she mentioned. Aigon confirms that the incident did happen and one person survived, but it couldn't be confirmed that it was Suzuki, especially since humans are creatures that should never be trusted. Ryuki agrees, and as he's coming out of the sewer, he says they should be near the Hotel of Pleasure, which is a safe place to exit. But as soon as he tries to leave the hole, there's that blonde guy looking kinda messed up. Ryuki goes up to him to see what happened, wondering if the guy was drunk. But that's when he sees there was a digital drug installed on the guy's neck thigh. The area is known as the Pleasure District, so it makes sense someone would have used something like that there. Suddenly, he hears someone approaching and takes off running. A guy with a white jacket tossed over his shoulder, full one-piece style, says that apparently this one's gonna be a real handful. Aigon immediately notices they're wearing the same clothes as the guys who were watching our boy through the window before he entered the shop. That the guy in front with red hair says that this bastard keeps making them run back and forth all the time. He grabs the blonde guy by the neck and says the bastard ran here after stealing what belongs to them. Smacks him in the face while Ryuki is just hiding there, watching everything go down. The redhead tells them to grab the guy and take him, lights a cigar, and asks if they lost the target. The guy next to him apologizes but says they'll start tracking again and will find him soon. Apparently they're actually hunting Suzuki, says that bastard is extremely cautious. But it's all good since the client just asked them to keep an eye on things for now. The guy is told to head back to Jushin Street and keep watch. He complains that keeping watch there hasn't really helped much. The boss crushes the cigar and tells him to just do what he's told. That's when Aigon comments that this wasn't Suzuki's doing. Both of them seem to be targets right now. Our boy just asked to be taken through a path with the fewest people. A while later, he reaches a door, opens it, and finally he's alone and can get some rest. After weeks in that cursed game world, this was the first time he could really relax. He spread his arms and smiled, but then a sword came flying, nearly hitting him on the bed. Man, he reacted quickly though, already activated the sword saint and sliced off the attacker's arm. But the bastard, even while bleeding, jumped right out the window. But now Ryuki's also losing it, turning into a psycho. He's all happy the guy used an item from Yggdrasil. He jumps after him and tells Aigon to show him which path they're going to follow. Thanks to the trail of blood, at least it's easy to track. Ryuki explains the guy was using invisibility and a presence-concealing item. Basically, game items converted into real life. Our boy just keeps going and soon sees the guy turning the corner. When he gets there, the person's back is facing him, and he tells them to reveal their identity. Who sent you? Black Snake or Steel Blood? But the guy just raises his sword, fills it with money, and goes for a slash at Ryuki. He manages to dodge, but the guy's slash was so precise it left a gash in the ground. That's when our boy says the weapon seems excellent, but the swordsmanship wasn't that great. The attacker moves, and in a second, Ryuki's already behind him, grabbing his hand. He pinches the guy's hand hard, making him drop the sword. Our boy comments that now he could finally get a good look at his face. Then he laughs and says it's amazing. The former ace of the guild is now an assassin. It was truly pathetic, the state Linful Darius had ended up in. The guy's desperate, yelling at him to shut up. Now I want to see what wickedness our boy's gonna do. Will he kill him or not? What's it gonna be, kid? Linful dashes forward to grab the sword, yelling for him to die, but gets hit with a brutal knee to the chin and gets tossed to the ground like garbage once again. Our boy goes to pick up the sword, wanting to know where he got this terrifying item straight from Yggdrasil. Apparently, he couldn't use its abilities unless it was inside the in-game inventory, but even so, it was still a chunk of metal sharp enough to cut. Linful's panicking again and runs off once more, terrified. But man, Ryuki just chases after him, saying that wasn't the best choice. Linful is trying to understand how that bastard got so strong and tells himself there must be some kind of solution. The kid might be strong and getting famous, but in the end, he was still just a nobody. That's when people nearby start looking around and seem to recognize Linful. They ask why there's blood on his hands. When they see the sword in his hand, everyone also realizes it's probably an item from Yggdrasil. And then some voices start recognizing the face of the famous Ryu 7017. They know he had already defeated that guy in the ghost world, so why were they fighting here in real life? That's when Linful says to our boy that the biggest crime he committed was that a nobody tried to kill a gold-rank player like him. That was the worst possible crime, especially now with so many people watching. The testimony of a nobody holds no legal value, so what's he gonna do? Ryuka just drops the sword on the ground and tells him to go ahead and arrest him then. If what he's doing is legit, then Linful should just kill him right now. That way he'd be considered innocent. This was his golden chance. But of course, that's if he could actually do it. Linful, poor guy, he knows the kid is planning something, but the desire to kill that bastard is just too strong. Still, he's sure the guy is bluffing. And on top of that, there are tons of cameras around. You can't go through that kind of humiliation again. But greed speaks louder. This was the perfect chance for him to revive the name Linful. He grabs the sword and charges in, but Ryuki dodges, saying it's sad to see how ridiculous Linful looks with a sword. It doesn't even feel tense fighting like this. Linful keeps swinging and swinging, but Ryuki's just laughing. Fighting someone like that who used a spear his whole life, it's just funny. Linful asks how long he's going to keep dodging, but then takes an uppercut to the chin. Our boy tells him to stop thinking this is some kind of duel. He's only hitting him because he's trying to draw out that brother of his. Linful is devastated, humiliated again. He sends out a flurry of attacks, but Ryuki keeps gaining distance and dodging. Then suddenly, Ryuki stumbles over some rubble and Linful sees his chance. He jumps in with the sword, saying now he's going to pay the price for trying to humiliate him. But just as he's about to land a massive slash, Ryuki blocks it with a tiny dagger Phi. Ryuki tells Linful to be careful. Not only is he wrecking the city, but he was about to kill innocent people. The blonde asks what he's talking about, and then it's revealed that a girl had nearly been hit by his attack. Meanwhile, other citizens are fleeing, yelling that Linful has gone crazy and is attacking everyone. People are running away from him in a panic. That's when the fool realizes Ryuki had blocked his line of sight. He didn't even know what he was doing. He turns to yell at the protagonist, but it's too late. The injured citizens are recording everything, saying they'll make sure the whole world knows about it. Now what can he do, right? The guy's just standing there surrounded by cameras, trying to make up some excuse. But Ryuki says it's going to be hard to explain why he used a sword on innocent people. Linful turns to strike again. But it was other civilians, Phi, not Ryuki. Now he doesn't even know what to say anymore. He tries to explain that it was all because of that damn nobody, but it's already over for him, son. Ryuki then congratulates him, saying the useless life he led has finally come to an end, and asks, "Do you remember my name now?" Finally, that bastard seems to remember something, that time when he put a hand on Ryuki's shoulder and told him to stop with those trashy guides. He left with Cynthia in his arms, who ended up betraying him too. Right, he got completely screwed. What fool. He screams our protagonist's name, but the scene already cuts to all of this being reported on TV. Linful was arrested, and of course he had all sorts of excuses, saying everything was a setup by that bastard Ryuki 7017, but the authorities didn't buy it. Watching all this unfold is Gabriel. When the red-haired guy comes over to grab something, his expression instantly changes. Linful says that from now on, they're going to mobilize the entire Linza Guild. They weren't going to overlook any method, even if they had to shut down the ghost world completely. They were going to find that bastard and settle things once and for all. Honestly, I wish our boy had killed Linful, but thinking about it, what he did might have been worse than death, because if you kill someone, they're gone. It's over. But now, Linful's stuck living this miserable life, just another wrecked convict nobody cares about. Meanwhile, his dumb brother is the one stuck having to give interviews to explain everything. He tries to tell the reporters that Linful had already been expelled when all that happened and was no longer a member of the guild. That's why he wants to make it clear. From now on, anything involving Linful has nothing to do with Linza. But the reporters want to know if it's true that Linful's account was deleted and whether it really was that Ryuki 7017 who did it. Gabriel just replies that they're still investigating, but yes, it seems that Guy Ryuki declared war on the guild. And not only that, a power that can delete data from a game is extremely dangerous. That's why he's now considered a risk factor, and they're going to mobilize all guilds and resources to take him down. He tells the citizens not to worry. Linza will protect the ghost world at the very end. Ah, sneaky little thing, you're trying to paint our boy as the villain now, huh? But on the internet, Phi, everyone's on Ryuki's side, laughing at Linza, saying that bastard's already in hiding and they're never gonna catch him. People are even starting to wonder what rank the guy is. Some say gold, others say platinum. Meanwhile, that researcher woman, Laguna, is furiously hammering her keyboard. A month had passed since the Linful incident, and Ryuki still hadn't posted a humble little video. A red-haired girl, about 1.30 meters tall, and with 80% of her weight in her thighs, asks what Laguna's doing there all alone. Turns out this girl's name is Bisque, and Laguna wants to know where the leader is. Apparently, she's from Linza too, and says that Gabriel went to meet with that pig. Laguna comments that they seem to be working hard, and Bisque says yeah, they are. Everything in this game is a complete mess because of that damn Ryuki, or whatever his name is. She can't understand why they just won't accept that Linful lost. Maybe because the guy has a bub, no one knows how to counter. But Laguna stands up and says she doesn't get it. What Ryuki is doing goes against common sense. Bisk then asks, so where's this guy who defies common sense? Looks like everyone's trying to hunt him down and no one can find him. Laguna goes to answer that that's exactly what she wants to know. But bam, something pops up behind her. A new video just got uploaded. Meanwhile, in the Rathian Company Operations Center, someone asks if they still haven't found that damn Ryuki. Gabriel apologizes to the fat guy, who says apologies won't work. He's already said it, just kill the kid in real life if you can't find him in the game. After all, he's just a nobody using hacks. How hard can it really be? Man, I think they went overboard on this dude's design. His head takes up like 1% of his body. This guy is Duke Stevero's CEO and developer of Rathian and a platinum-ranked player. He asks if it's true that resource farming in their main game, the Ghost World, is declining. Looks like Linza Guild is just becoming a bigger disappointment every single day. Gabriel's there apologizing, thinking to himself that he's sick of dealing with this outdated garbage. The fat guy, however, says it's fine, that thing was just a relic that would soon become obsolete anyway. The only issue is that it would be kind of inconvenient if the game collapsed right now. It needed to stay up until his masterpiece was finished. Then he says he's going to show them the game that will reshape the entire industry. At that moment, a video window pops up in front of him. And for everyone in the city, Phi, who has notifications turned on for Ryuki's channel, he just posted and it appears for them. You guys could take after those honest citizens, right? Turn on the notifications here on my channel too. Our boy raises his hands and welcomes everyone, introducing himself once again. He's standing in Minecraft-like world saying that they're calling him an enemy of society. But to him, the ones who truly deserve that title are Linza and Rathian. But no rush, because soon enough, he's going to destroy the Ghost World. What he really wanted to show today was what's coming next. A game called Thump Builder, which used to be a hit, but was later abandoned. Usually games like that don't just get abandoned, they get destroyed. So the question is, why are games destroyed like that? He explains that there are games focused on gathering resources and others focused on fun. This little cube world, like Minecraft, is in theory supposed to be fun, while the Ghost World is entirely focused on farming and grinding because that's where the fun was supposed to come from. Obviously, with games like Ghost World, once the resources run dry, the game shuts down because that was the only reason it existed. This Minecraft knockoff, however, was destroyed for a different reason. Right then, a massive heart appears above, and he says that's the god of cubes, the divine entity that basically keeps this world running, but also turns it into trash. Then he pulls out his sword and says he's going to show them how each world can be destroyed. Bisk is confused, wondering how he's doing something like that. Both she and Laguna are thinking the same thing. How the hell is he using a weapon from the Ghost World in a completely different game? The god of cubes starts attacking, swinging first as Ryuki explains the real reason this game failed. It's because this damn god kept destroying everyone's builds. It was supposed to be a fun game, but no one had fun because the difficulty was insane thanks to that bug. He jumps from cube to cube, closes in, and asks, what happens when they destroy the thing holding the world together? He plunges the sword in, the cube rises, and he places his hand on it, explaining that when a severe, irreparable failure occurs in the system, the game is supposed to collapse. Then he activates the SSR system and uses delete. The cube begins to disintegrate and explodes in the sky. Suddenly, everything around him starts turning into a mess of pixels, and he says that now that no one's managing it, this place is going to be undone. Evis asks if he's really destroying the labyrinth itself, and Laguna realizes he just used the same ability that destroyed Linful's spear. Our boy opens his arms and says, as you can see, if you destroy the thing holding a game together, it disappears. And very soon, they'll see the same thing happen to the Ghost World. Gabriel, during an interview, had said that without the Ghost World, the real world would collapse. But the only thing that's going to collapse is the greed of Hatina and the laziness of the Linza Guild. And Ryuki guarantees, they're next. Man, and all this chaos just to announce that he's planning to end the game, huh? Next scene, we see a group entering a dungeon in the Ghost World. Apparently, there are wanted posters out for our boy, Phi. In fact, right in front of the dungeons, there are always a few guys posted up, holding his wanted poster, checking who they'll let through. Players are starting to get pissed, both at Ryuki, for making everyone go through this mess, and at the Linza Guild, for making them go through this mess too. Man, the guy orders everyone to take off their gear and drop all their items on the ground so they can inspect them. That's when the guy with the helmet starts pulling out a pistol and you already know who it is, Phi. Right away, everyone gets on alert. Only one person had that weapon. And our boy shows up, saying it must be hard for them, spending the whole day chasing him like this. He gets ready to attack, saying it's time to test out some new abilities. A little warm-up before entering the dungeon. One of the skills he got is called SR Sword Draw. Basically, he unsheaths his sword really fast, delivering a slash with a boosted chance of a critical hit. Then he switches to another sword, a blue one, and finishes off the other guy. That was the Soul Finisher sword, which always lands a critical against spiritual-type enemies. A guy with an axe comes from behind, yelling that he's an arrogant bastard, only to take a punch right to the face, son. Bro, the guy literally turned into a puddle of blood from just a punch. Our boy says this is way too easy. What were they even doing this whole month? That scene was actually a month in the future, and now we jump back to a month in the past, right after he made his big announcement. He decided to go back to the labyrinth and search for other games, since for now he'd be hunted non-stop in the ghost world. So he heads into one called Celestial Blade Online, a martial arts game. But it was too easy to beat everything there, and he still wanted more power. He needed enough power to go up against Rathian and Linza all by himself and not lose. He died once to the boss, and again and again. The old man, in-game, yells that it's ridiculous. Even after taking so much punishment, he still believes he has a chance. Because he's so persistent, the boss says he'll show him the peak he's reached. This was the Sword Demon, the final boss of that game. Ryuki punches the ground in frustration, shouting that even if this guy is the final boss, he's too buggy and insanely hard. The problem was that it's an abandoned game, so there were no real strategies and no one had even tried to fix it. Back to his usual ways, Aigon tells him to try his luck on the roulette wheel. Maybe he'd get a legendary ability that solves everything. Ryuki shoves the robot away, saying he's already told him that those points are for upgrading skills. But then, something seems to click. Cut back to the boss, who asks why he doesn't just give up already. He should realize how dumb it is to keep trying the same thing without changing strategy. But Ryuki walks calmly through the gate, saying he's heard that line so many times he's got it memorized. No more chit-chat. The old man better just come at him already. The sword demon calls him an insolent piece of trash and lunges toward him, saying no one insults him in lives. He launches some purple slashes and Ryuki starts dodging. Once again, he's dealing with a completely unbalanced combo attack. Then the boss gets behind him and says Ryuki talks big for someone with zero chance. Ryuki manages to block the attack, and the boss even compliments him for at least surviving. But at that moment, Ryuki had dropped a grenade right behind the guy. Looks like he came out unharmed, but while following Ryuki Man, the boy starts dropping a bunch of grenades. The sword demon keeps chasing him, yelling that a sicko like him won't win with some dumb strategy like that. One of the things he slashes happens to be a gas grenade. Ryuki instantly puts on a mask. But it wasn't gas, it was a stink bomb, and the boss has to cover his nose. Our boy also puts on earplugs and anti-flash goggles, while throwing flashbangs and sonic grenades like crazy. Everything explodes, and the boss in that moment couldn't smell, couldn't see, couldn't hear. That's when a bullet hits him right in the forehead. The boss drops to the ground. Even if Aigon says this was the dirtiest strategy he's ever seen a human use in a game, our boy just replies, "I use human technology, grenades, bombs, flashbangs, and guns." There was no way that martial arts boss would know how to deal with all that. Just like the Black Knight, this guy was a bug, which is why Ryuki earned 15,000 points. Back in the present, he's still impressed. That sword key thing is insanely powerful. The ability itself is pretty simple. It boosts physical strength. But since it came from a bugged boss, clearly there's nothing simple about it. He waves goodbye to the crowd, telling them to say hi to Gabriel for him. The boss of this dungeon was known as Liganen, and it seemed like his specialty was being able to use aura as if it were part of his own body. What the hell, Phi? Next scene, the boss is groaning in agony. Our boy had summoned this Ramuth in its child form, a shadow creature, basically a pet that could absorb the shadows of other creatures. So yeah, since the boss focused on aura, he got absorbed. Or maybe it wasn't the boss. Maybe it was just the first creature in the dungeon. Or am I going crazy? Nope, that was it, and he's already exiting the dungeon. And obviously, the second he steps outside, everyone's waiting for him. Our boy says he thought Gabriel had retired. Apparently, the legend Gabriel Darius was planning a comeback. Ivan comments that they already figured people would be waiting, but it looked like half the server was there. Our boy asks if Linza doesn't have anything better to do than to show up with that many people. But suddenly, Gabriel pulls out a book and says he's actually there to make him an offer. Our boy calls it ridiculous to talk about offers when you show up with a mob like this. It's clearly a threat. But then, Gabriel offers him a return to the Linza Guild. He wouldn't be seen as a nobody anymore, and he even received the gold rank, something almost impossible to get. On top of that, you'd be inherited to the guild master position. Damn, the guy really offered everything. Our boy replies that apparently they're trying every trick to keep him trapped, offering him the very thing he wants to destroy in order to stop him from destroying it. Right away, he fires a shot and says, "My answer is go screw yourself." But in a second, Gabriel's already behind him, saying he understands. He attacks and Ryuki blocks it. Gabriel says he was going to celebrate, but it looks like Ryuki doesn't want to accept a great offer. So to celebrate that decision, he's going to share something about the St. General Hospital, the place where Ryuki's mother died. Her death wasn't from natural causes. Ryuki shoves him away and says he's not fallen for something that stupid. Gabriel responds that Ryuki can check it himself if he wants, but his purpose here is already done. He's actually more interested in the skills and items that shouldn't even exist in this game. Then he says goodbye and tells Ryuki he'll be waiting at the top of the tower. The bastard starts flying, saying that of course, Ryuki will first need to deal with all the other players. Man, he really flies off, and there's a whole crowd out there. Looks like a day in football stadium. Gabriel announces that whoever kills Ryuki will get the same offer he just gave him. Obviously, the crowd gets hyped about it. Gabriel knows the kid is extraordinary, but there's no way one person can beat 1,000. But before he can even finish that thought, bodies are already flying in front of him. He looks back, and a laser is coming straight at him from Ryuki, who tells him to stay right there. Bro, his asterisk sword just keeps getting bigger. It's a damn cannon now. The poor guys who got hit are in shock, saying it can't be possible that hundreds died in the first strike. The blonde girl insists they still have enough numbers to bring him down. Another volley of arrows and spells is launched at our boy, but from the look on his face, you already know nothing's gonna happen. The explosion hits, and in the smoke, that's where he should be. But he's gone. The players are confused. It looked like he used a return stone, but those things take 10 seconds to activate. Gabriel lands back on the ground, confused that Ryuki still had another trick up his sleeve. It was fine that he got away this time, but next time, something like that wasn't going to happen again. Our boy reappears in another part of the forest. He had used a teleportation skill. He had 5 saved points, and the cooldown time was 1 hour. Man, our boy pulls up the skill list, and the thing is getting massive. The latest additions were Ancient Level 1 and SSR Limit Break. But he's pissed, saying that's way too little. This past month, he'd been working non-stop, saving up 1,000 tickets, and that's all he got. Igon says he should at least be happy he got something, but now he's curious. What's the next step? Ryuki says, obviously, it's time to start the core of the game, the tower. Man, I love tower games. Who doesn't, right? Climbing floors, good stuff. But before he can head to the tower, our boy has to clear multiple dungeons, and he's breaking records in every single one. People are getting nervous, asking what the hell Linza is doing because they're losing everything to this kid. Some comment that, as always, he's probably abusing some weird bug. That's when a red-haired guy yells that Ryuki was spotted in a nearby dungeon. But the crowd's not really in the mood to chase him. They say he was just spotted in another dungeon right before that one. By the time they get there, he'll already be done and off to the next. The NPC behind the bar asks if the guy isn't going to go hunt him down. The guy in armor thinks it's strange. Why is an NPC interested in that kind of info? The bartender answers that it's just interesting to watch a kid being hunted by dozens of guilds while taking out every other player. The guy with blue hair asks if the old man's really okay with all that. After all, the kid's trying to destroy the very game they all live in. That's when the bartender reveals he comes from another world called Palm. Apparently, it's one of the oldest games from Yggdrasil, so this guy's been around a long time. The old man explains that he's been in and out of countless games, and in the end, they don't really have a choice but to accept that some games will disappear. Just when someone's about to ask more, someone outside calls out to all the citizens born in that world. A guy in red armor yells that this is the reality they live in. They were born in this place, and they're going to die here. That's why they need to unite and wipe out the invaders and take back their land. They call themselves the Blood Guild, and tomorrow they're going to invade the dungeons and prove they don't need players anymore. Bro, is this a guild of NPCs? This guy is getting wild, son. Back in the bar, the old man thinks to himself that these kids really don't understand how games work. He says he's about to close the shop, so the armored guy should head out too. Wait a minute, plot twist. That guy was Ryuki in disguise the whole time. And the little bear reveals to our boy that this NPC group is being led by someone named Kugan. Apparently, they've already challenged countless dungeons over and over again, but this time, they're saying they'll conquer. Now I'm confused. Do they want to conquer any dungeon or the tower itself? Igon chimes in, saying that since they're NPCs, this is basically suicide, because they can't be revived when they die. Our boy asks if it's actually possible that they found a way to conquer that place. Igon replies that yeah, it might be possible, especially since HS seems to be in contact with their guild. Our boy remembers the only woman in this entire world, you know who, Fi. If she's made contact with those guys, it's probably some bug nonsense again. Right away, he starts disguising himself again and saying he's getting a bad feeling about this and is going to follow them. Scene changes to the Predator's nest. The whole group is advancing while our boy hangs back, wondering why so many people are coming along. Igon explains that the 4-player limit per dungeon only applies to players Fi. For residents of this world, they can bring as many as they want, since for them it's literally just a cave. But Ryuki thinks that doesn't make sense. These guys were way weaker than even the weakest players, so how were they supposed to fight? That's when a red scorpion charges in to attack, and the Knights Fi, instead of defending, they all dodge. Kugan, organizing the formation, orders the front line to step back and the second row to go in. Now these Fi, these are real players, man. These guys were risking their lives. This was what you'd call a hardcore dungeon. Ryuki is impressed for a bunch of NPCs. They were really well organized and moved with coordination. Too bad they probably wouldn't do any real damage. But that's when he notices something strange. The tip of one guy's spear looks bugged. All the attacks were piercing way too easily. Igon quickly points out that it's the same pattern from HS Dagger. If they could capture one, it might be able to analyze the structure. Looking at the chaos this has turned into, Ryuki starts thinking that dealing with NPCs might be even harder than with Linza. The worst part is, even though the NPCs are packing overpowered weapons, a hit to the chest still opens a crater, and the guy, obviously is in a critical state. He's going to die. Ryuki asks what really happens to an NPC's data when they die. Aigon explains that basically they're reborn in a different form, kind of like reincarnation. But only rarely do they retain any memories from their past life. So yeah, some NPCs end up escaped. Looks like this whole thing is a simulation. Wait, what if we're in a simulation too? Ida, Rapaz. Then Kugan pulls out a dark-looking potion and tells them to give it to the wounded. As soon as it hits the NPC's mouth, it's like Ryu-tier healing. The guy's instantly back to full. Our boy's just standing there watching like, these bastards just keep pulling out item after item more suspicious than the last. Now he starts to feel a strange unease along with a dark aura, maybe thanks to his boosted intuition. Everyone's cheering, saying that person told nothing but the truth. With those spears and potions, they'd survive and get the job done. But then a bald guy holding a spear asks why that player gave them all this stuff. Kevin replies that not all players are enemies. Still, the true intention behind all this is clearly using the residents as pawns. But of course, they're not going to just sit there and be used. Once this is over, they plan to flip the game and take control of everything. Time passes, and Kuven announces they finally arrived. The final boss of the dungeon, the post-McDonald's version of Beru. No hesitation, they charge in with their spears, but the monster phases into the ground. Our boy is hanging back, analyzing the fight and studying the patterns. Everyone's tense, wondering where the boss will pop up next. That's when Kuven pulls out a battle standard, slams it into the ground, and activates a radar. Damn, it really revealed the location underneath. This guy's legit. The creature realizes it's been detected and instantly bursts out of the ground. Ryuki says this detection thing is basically cheating. Ivan fires back. You're the last person on Earth who can talk about cheating. The boss slams the ground, sending giant boulders flying. If it hits the chest, you're dead. But Kuven sneaks up from behind and pierces through it like butter with his spear, screaming that victory was finally within their reach. With that, the Predator's dungeon was cleared. Standing atop the monster's corpse, Kuven celebrates, shouting that they did it. Suddenly, someone starts clapping, saying they're deeply moved. When Kuben looks to the side, he recognizes the man in the hat as John Doe, who says he can't believe they actually did it. But this guy wasn't supposed to be there, and Kugan asks what he wants. John Doe apologizes, saying that's no way to treat a friend. But right away, the NPCs raise their spears, saying they're sure he's planning to use them for something. John Doe calmly replies that he heard Kugan say he'd clear the dungeon no matter what, so no use complaining now. The NPCs could carry the pride of having fought, but they wouldn't be the heroes of this place. Kugan says he doesn't know what John Doe wants, but that the Chieffielden was just beginning. What the hell is Chieffielden? Yeah, no clue. John Doe just throws his hand downward, saying, they took the potion. Suddenly, all the NPCs collapse, surrounded by some glitchy aura. And this little villain of the week says that the potion doesn't restore people to their original state. In fact, it creates bugged code in the damaged areas, letting the person survive a little longer. But the damage keeps stacking. Heisha's goal from the beginning was to see what would happen when the bug reached its peak. And obviously, a sealed room with 50 people was the perfect test zone. Poor Kugan. Thought he was dominating. Now he's bleeding from his eyes, asking what that bastard thinks they are. John just says, "You're NPCs with slightly better eye." Kugan collapses, yelling for him to go to hell, saying players really are all bastards. From above, Ryuki watches the guy being dragged away. John Doe's checking the bodies, calling out things like, number 32, failure. 41, failure. 21, total failure. He checks each one and every single body was a failure. Until something catches his eye. Kugan's body is being covered in a black aura and John gets excited. Finally, at least one was a success. Man, the guy starts rising up, dripping black sludge, completely darkened, muttering something about awakening the residents. Suddenly, a cocoon surrounds him, and he turns into a bucket of black ink. While John Doe celebrates, hoping this first success doesn't collapse. Bam! Ryuki appears behind him, knife to the neck. When John starts to turn, our boy just says, "Don't turn your head." He better start talking. What's HS really up to? Blood starts dripping, but John Doe calmly says there's no reason for him to reveal that. Next panel, he's already spilling it. Guess he wasn't that hard to convince. He explains it all started with research into Yggdrasil's interference signals, and then it's almost complete. All they need now is the final test. Cut to another scene, 3 knights looking at a child asking if the NPC has glitched speech. But the kid replies, "I'm not an NPC. Someday he'd be just like the players, walking the world freely, fighting monsters, leveling up." The white-haired guy says he can tell the kid's serious. So why not make a bet? Back to the present. John Doe tries to attack Ryuki from behind, calling him an idiot for letting his guard down. Looks like he already figured out who our boy really is. But what he didn't expect was instinct level 2. Bro, Ryuki whips out a flashbang and throws it in the guy's face. "I told you, this bastard is the king of FPS, Let Yggdrasil drop Counter-Strike 3.0. He's ready. John Doe's stumbling around confused. Where the hell did that flashbang come from? But now he's already getting slashed in the neck and Ryuki demands again. What was that black thing devouring the dungeon? John Doe, instead of answering, asks, "Why are you so mad? Are you emotionally attached to those NPCs or something?" Man, in that panel with his invisible foot, the idea was probably to show a high-speed movement, but looks like the artist got confused with the effect this time. But hey, there's the result. Smash the poor guy face first into the ground. As always, the guy tries to log out, but it's not working. Meanwhile, Kugen's body is completely black, surrounded by glitchy red cubes. Ryuki says he wants to see the guy keep acting tough after getting hacked. Better start talking soon, or he's gonna vanish. Someone tries to stab him from behind, but Ryuki just fires a bullet, saying this is pathetic. Even Ryuki is impressed with how level 2 perception lets him sense danger before it even comes. But suddenly, John Doe looks shocked and tells Ryuki to look behind him. Kugen is coming up from the back, stretches out his hand, and launches a barrage of dark energy. Ryuki's forced to fall back, wondering how this bastard is still alive. The attacks are hitting John Doe's arm, and the guy is literally disintegrating, turning into slime and pixels. Just one touch, and it was corrupting his entire arm. John starts to log out, saying he's screwed because of that damn bug, but he'll make sure Ryuki pays for all this. Aigon explains that he didn't really log out. He used some kind of dungeon escape function, the same one that let him show up there in the first place. Before Ryuki can say anything, Kugen hits him with another attack. But man, Ryuki solves it quick, landing a clean shot right in the forehead. Doesn't look like the boss lasted too long, huh? Ryuki finds it interesting that Kugen is still alive even with a hole in his head. Despite his human appearance, he was just a bundle of bugged code. Seems like Kugen's having flashbacks, back to when he was holding a wooden sword and someone yelled at him for being too slow. It was that mech from yesterday saying that if the boy landed even one hit, he'd take him on an adventure. Then his mom showed up saying she'd been looking for him all morning. Told him to go chop some wood. But he replied that he didn't want to do boring stuff like that anymore. The people outside were waiting for him. Then man, he slashes her neck. Her body drops like trash, and the guy crouches down saying, "Finally landed one." The NPC had been holding the item for the next dungeon. Kugen, horrified, asks why he did that to his mother. But the guy just looks confused. He thought the kid was gone. He explains they were just in town, waiting for the NPC who carried the crystal to show up. Kugen, desperate, still doesn't understand why she had to die. Back in the dungeon, Ryuki has secured the black spear and the antidote, everything needed for analysis. Looking at Kugen's decaying body, he asks if he's got any last words. He says he'll listen to his wish before he dies. Kugen says he will never forgive the players. And in that moment, he curses them all. His body begins to explode, releasing dark energy throughout the cave. Ryuki fires again, but this time the whole place blows up for real. When the dust settles, there's nothing left of the guy. And Ryuki reflects, maybe they were alike. Maybe, if he were still alive, they could have gotten along. He just hopes that in the next life, if the guy's born into a better game or a better labyrinth. Sometime later, he's asking 55 how the data analysis he sent is going. 55 replies that it's interesting data, and he's going to investigate this John Doe. Ryuki says that the time-consuming part has finally arrived. It's time to climb the Demon King's tower and finish this world's content. In front of the tower, there she is, Bisque. Or is it Bisque now? Damn translators hate when they keep changing the name every time. She's standing there angry because instead of climbing the tower, she's stuck guarding it. All right, boys, this one here. That's Noor, finally making her entrance after 27 chapters. A proper badass stepping onto the stage. Sure, we had Cynthia, but let's be real. We just want our boy to kill that damn snake already. Her name is Noor, and she says there's a 90% chance Ryuki will show up at the tower sometime next week. Bisque just replies that the guild master's been acting really weird lately, is definitely planning something bad. On top of that, all the support they're getting is trash, and the guild members are starting to lose their patience. Noor tells her to stay calm. The world's a mess right now. Apparently, the NPCs made a dungeon, but it bugged out and everyone died. Now the players think NPCs are a threat, and obviously, that's just escalating the conflict. Because of the bugs, all the info got wiped, but of course, people are already saying it's Ryuki's doing. She heard all that from Laguna, who kinda sees Ryuki as some new god or something. Noor even admits that having Ryuki on the team would make clearing these raids way easier. But Bisque says she'd rather stay away from someone who can delete characters. Suddenly, her expression changes when someone asks what that kid is doing there. Oh my god, the dude with 2 swords on his back is named, get this, Explosive Blade. What am I even supposed to do with that? Let's just rename him right now with that gear and the way he clearly dropped billions of cash. We're calling him Pay to Win. Pay to Win wants to know why Miss Dungeon Addict is outside the tower for the first time. He taps her on the head while she tells him to beat it, says she can't even stand looking at his ugly mug. But P2 replies that they could make a bet Whoever kills Ryuki first gets to take Linful's spot. The two of them start bickering while Noir tells them to chill out, especially since Ryuki-related info should be kept quiet. And in the middle of this argument, a notification window pops up right in some player's face. The three Linza clowns are confused too, wondering if someone just passed 447. But Bisk corrects them, it's not about 447. It's a notification that the record for the first floor was broken. Bro, he beat the first floor in 18 hours. I'm telling you, you could start a whole family in these dungeons, Fi. How long is it gonna take for him to do 46 floors? Or even 100? You start a family on floor 50 and by the time he finishes floor 100, your kid's already 20 years old. The crew's going nuts because the previous record was 72 hours. They're all asking, who could have done this? Like, come on, y'all acting surprised like amateurs. Obviously, it's Ryuki. Now they're wondering when the hell he even entered the tower. P2W is stunned, and Nor says that with the power he's built up, it makes sense he breezed through the first floor. P2W turns to Bisk and asks if she could beat that record. She says yes, if she restarted from floor 1 maybe. But why would anyone go back and reset their entire tower progress? Meanwhile, Nor is thinking she really underestimated Ryuki. She should have gone after him with everything she had. Wait, did you even go after him at all? Am I losing it? Do I have Alzheimer's, boys? She stares at the tower and says now she understands why Gabriel is so cautious. He's not really cautious though, is he? He should be out there hunting our boy down, not just sitting around on floor 100. Back with Igon, and he's roasting Ryuki for taking 13 minutes longer than he should have. But Ryuki fires back saying, not bad for someone who had to fight for 18 hours straight, huh? And of course, Ryuki immediately goes off on that Dan robot, shooting him out for setting goals that made no sense in the first place. Also, that extra time was because they discovered new areas during the run. But it was fine. With that, the preliminary battle was complete. Not a bad result for a first attempt. But after 18 hours, man, it was time to return to reality. Suddenly, he's back in his room thinking it's been ages since he's actually returned to the real world. At least this time, he wasn't sensing anyone's presence. Ryuki wonders if maybe Akatsuki was the one who prepared the rune for him. Looks like they changed the name of 55/Suzuki to Akatsuki, and it makes sense, since he's the only one who could set this up. Sure enough, that's it. Akatsuki calls him up, congratulating our boy for clearing the first floor and saying it was a real pain to get a room that couldn't be tracked. He also asks for a personal visit. Ryuki's confused, wanting to know why he suddenly wants to meet face-to-face. But damn, Akatsuki sounds panicked, warning him to be careful because more and more people are hunting him in the entertainment district. Even though he's pissed, Ryuki decides to go. Igon says it's madness. This sudden call, the weird voice, everything smells like a trap. Ryuki admits he doesn't fully trust that person either, but he doesn't think they'd betray him like that. But just then, boom, something explodes right behind him. He turns. Igon says the signal from that recently uploaded video came from that very spot. The store building is in flames and Ryuki's hiding nearby. Igon says he's not sensing 55 anywhere nearby. So Ryuki says there's a fast way to find him. Next panel, he's already beating up poor Luga again. This guy's been catching hands since chapter 1. Ryuki tells him he knows damn well he's the one who's been watching him and the shop owner since that day. He remembers what he saw in the footage. He says he let Luga off easy because he didn't think the guy would go this far. But that was a mistake. Now he knows Luga's the kind of guy who needs to be killed. Luga's panicking, apologizing, saying he had no choice. It was because of Steel Blood. That's a name Ryuki's heard before, right? Yep, the same guy he saw that day in Pleasure Alley. Luga explains that burning places down and murdering people is routine for those guys. Ryuki doesn't stand a chance. But Ryuki grabs a wooden stick and says he's not looking for apologies right now. What he wants is the location of their base right now. Just then, a group of armed men show up, telling their captain the mission was easy. They blew the place up. Of course, they come face to face with Ryuki. They seem to realize he's a nobody. And I'm over here like, what, does he just have a nobody face or something? Luke is yelling, saying they're taking too long. He turns to Ryuki, smug, saying he's screwed now. The level of gear they brought this time is on a whole other level. But man, poor guys. Ryuki just warns them he already said it once before. The sequence of skills he's about to activate. Now surrounded by an aura, he tells them, pretty soon you're all gonna be begging for mercy. They open fire, but the first splash of blood and Luga's already regretting every life decision. He starts thinking life would have been better if he'd never met Ryuki. He shouldn't have robbed that guy that night. Next panel, Ryuki's sitting down exhausted. Igon tells him he checked the cameras. It really was Steel Blood who took Suzuki. These guys are a few levels above Black Snake. In the real world, they got real power and a massive intel network. And that's why Igon says it's probably best to give up on Suzuki. Ryuki, however, responds that he was the target all along, so of course he has to go. After all, he doesn't have many allies and he can't afford to lose the one person who's actually useful. Since these guys were so polite to invite him so enthusiastically, he'll just have to go meet them in person. Scene changed to the base of Steel Blood. Commander Crow says this is the first time he's ever met the legendary Suzuki. One of the guys warns him to be careful. The digital drugs didn't really work on her. And there's Suzuki, all beaten up, saying she ended up like this because someone launched a surprise attack. She didn't even have time to react. But along the way, she saw some interesting things. The weapons they had were incredibly hard to obtain, so how did they get their hands on them? Crow just tells her she's not in any position to ask questions, so he's cutting to the chase. He points a gun at her head and asks, "Where's Ryu?" Suzuki wants to know why they're hunting that boy and if they're involved with Linza too. Crow snaps, tells her to shut up, and warns that if she says anything else, those implants in her head will be detonated. But Suzuki calmly asks why he, who gave up being a player because of Gabriel, isn't opposing Linza instead. Crow fires a shot, bang, blows a crater in the wall, and tells her next time there won't be a warning. But Suzuki stands up calmly, saying that was a very interesting threat. Crow sits back down, demanding she finally tell him where Ryu 7017 is. She says she had provided him a hiding place, but obviously he already left, and she has no way of contacting him. Nalva wants to know what kind of tech he's using, because she must know something. But she explains that even though she takes pride in her knowledge, she has no idea. That kid is an incomprehensible exception, not made by humans. Crow gets up again, points the gun at her once more, saying she needs to stop talking crap. There's no way she'd keep hiding information about Ryuki. But suddenly, her expression changes. She says she was never trying to forget. She was just buying time. A floating red window appears, and she explains. This is the virus known as Trucadia, something discovered in one of the sci-fi-style labyrinths. It's a kind of seed that can be injected into the human brain, but it causes irreversible effects. At the time, she was shocked to discover that all tech-based drugs were derived from Yggdrasil. There was massive backlash, and because of it, everything was completely banned. Of course, it would be chaos if people ever discovered what else that tree produces. Turns out she was hacking into their systems right then and there, digging up everything. Crow orders them to capture her immediately, and if she tries anything funny, blow her head off. Suzuki just laughs, saying he's a coward. In another room, Crow's slamming the table, while the screen says connection failed. But honestly, he doesn't care, because he got what he wanted. He finally has the egg drizzle item in the real world, a snow ice blade which can freeze anything. He's certain that if he can figure out how Ryuki's tech works, he'll escape this cursed pleasure district, become a top-tier player again, and rise to the top. And when that happens, he'll put a bullet straight through Gabriel's face. Asterisk man, in this story, literally everyone wants to kill Gabriel Phi. No wonder the guy's hiding up on floor 100. Now it makes sense. Suddenly, there's a commotion outside. Suzuki starts radiating a golden energy, smiling as she says, "Life is all about survival." Next thing you know, heads are rolling and everyone's scrambling to flee. Smoke fills the air and Crow manages to shield himself with the sword. But right in front of him, a whole wall of surveillance monitors lights up. And there's Suzuki on the screen, saying, "This must be quite fascinating, huh?" The only thing she had blown up was the puppet's body. Her consciousness and brain were hidden in one of those drones. He calls her trash, and she replies that she doesn't want to hear that from someone who makes a living selling drugs. Then the robots split up, and she says it's time to play tag. He slashes a few, but the others move off easily. The rest of the goons arrive, asking what happened, and right away he tells everyone to start hunting down those damn drones, because that girl Suzuki is escaping. The problem is, obviously, she'd easily escape outside. So he activates Hunter's Eye, which allows him to locate targets in the area. The guys start using cake weapons and lightning weapons to destroy the Big Brother cameras. Because of that, the drones keep crashing to the ground. We see one well hidden off to the side. Crow approaches and says that apparently the real one is hiding like a rat. And at least for Beneza, this is the first person who's given him so much trouble, besides Gabriel. He fires a shot, but obviously the barrier does nothing. Then he says he's going to stab her with that freezing sword and make sure she suffers as much as possible. The blade slowly moves closer and the drone starts freezing. For some reason, I feel like that's not the real one, you know. He freezes her completely in a block, drops the sword above, and goes in for the finish. But wait, our boy shows up to save the day, so I guess it was the real one after all. And Ryuki asks the guy, "Do you have what it takes to deal with my rage for messing with my ally?" He asks about Suzuki's condition, and Igon says she seems to be in hibernation, but she'll be fine, easy to recover later. Still, our boy's shocked. His so-called ally had basically become just a camera. It was hard to even call something like that human. Just then, more goons show up and Crow says they've got to defend this damn base. This time, the guys are all armed with Yggdrasil weapons, 5, so it won't be that easy. Then Ryuki says that earlier he was in a hurry, but now he's going to deal with this. Except he had just broken a mini-chip under his shoe. When Ivan tries to warn him to be careful, it's already too late. 3 attacks are already on their way. An explosion hits, but man, the guys are already all defeated. Ryuki's there stroking the neck of the last one. Crow can't believe it. Even after catching the kid off guard, they were all taken out so easily. Then, Crow suddenly changes his tone. He says, "I have no idea who you are, kid, but the orders came from above, so I'll allow you to leave unharmed." But obviously, that lame excuse wasn't going to work with our boy. Then we flash back to that day. The day Ryuki found out his mom would die because he lost his position and wouldn't have enough money to pay the hospital bill. Man, her body would be kept at the hospital for 3 weeks, and he'd have to pay the fee to recover it. She was already dead. Otherwise, after that, her body would be chopped up and sold at the city auction. The guy warned him researchers, collectors, and perverts would buy it. What kind of messed up world is this? Even I'm mad now, Fi. Our boy's digging in Minecraft, trying to calm down and forget what they told him. Right after that, he ran to the Minecraft mines to farm Fi. He needed money to get his mom out of there. First, he'd deal with the funeral, and only after that, accept reality. That's when someone showed up behind him and told him to wake up to reality. That even in 3 years, he'd never earn enough. So why not volunteer for a very interesting experiment? He pulls out a chip, saying it has all the security data of the city, and with it, he'd be able to infiltrate the hospital and do whatever he wanted. Sure, it was still in its early stages, but it was a great opportunity. Staring at the chip, Ryuki thinks it's madness. That hospital is extremely secure. Hacking a place like that wouldn't be easy at all. But with no better option, he decides to check the files. As soon as he opens it, he can actually see the entire city, all the data, access passwords, everything. In that moment, he's sure he found a way to get his mom out of there. Man, this is the first time I've seen a protagonist have to work so hard just to save the body, you know. It's not even about saving the person anymore. Next scene at the hospital, one of the doors opens. One of those corpse freezers, I don't even remember the name, is empty. Our boy is carrying the coffin for the city Fi. After a while, he collapses in an alleyway but smiles, saying that he finally made it happen. At least, it was a miracle. Really, it was all thanks to that weird chip. Obviously, he's still suspicious of where all that data even came from. Then, bam, he looks back and his mother stands up from the coffin. He jumps back, shocked, wondering how that's even possible. He goes in for a hug, and that's when someone shows up, clapping. What the hell? Cynthia and Linful appear, telling him that now all he has to do is come back to the guild. Is this a dream? What the hell is going on? I'm confused. Cynthia apologizes, saying now they can go back to the guild together. Yeah, something's definitely off here. His mom starts fading away, and he has no idea what's happening. He looks to the side, she's gone, and suddenly he's somewhere else. The guy behind him says that he woke up faster than expected, maybe even had fun. Of course, the test version would end quickly, and obviously, this experiment would come at a high cost. The boy looks confused, so the guy explains that the chip he used was actually a drug. He has no idea what the kid saw, but it must have been a mix of hallucinations and delusions. Man, what a bastard, he gave our hardworking Minecraft boy some tech drug just to get him addicted. But our boy's sense of justice kicks in hard, and he punches the guy in the face the moment he offers more. Too bad that back then, he had no strength. In the next scene, he's getting beaten down and kicked out. The worst part, he starts wondering how much time had passed. Back at the hospital, he finds out it's been a month, and the auction already ended. Oh my god, now I want to destroy this whole damn world, blow up Yggdrasil, kill Linful, burn Crow, everything. Back in the fight, Crow can't understand how he's getting pressure even while using an Yggdrasil sword. He leaps toward our boy, saying he'll end this nobody. But Fi, our boy already has a blade at his neck, saying, "You might not know it, but I've got reasons for what I'm about to do." Crow backs off, coughing and stunned, while Ryuki says it's shameful that a leader is this weak. But the clown replies that now he's going to show the true power of the Snow Ice Sword. The floor begins to freeze along with all the other subordinates, turning them into popsicles. Aiganum warns our boy that, unfortunately, even with the talents he has, a wooden sword won't be enough to win this one. And the cold aura around them is draining his energy. Eventually, he'll be paralyzed. Right then, Ryuki throws a knife, but Crow blocks it, saying it's useless. Inside the blizzard, he can even track the trajectory of bullets. He lunges at Ryuki, saying that as long as he's within the storm, he's invincible. Our boy blocks the strike, but his hand and blade are already starting to freeze over. Meanwhile, Crow can't understand how the hell he still hasn't beaten this kid. Then he mutters, "You must be using some Yggdrasil item to be resisting like this." Ryuki just replies, "Go ahead and keep living in that illusion." But at that exact moment, Crow activates his aura again, saying that now we'll see who's stronger, the ice sword or the wooden sword. The problem is, Ryuki couldn't see a thing, couldn't even move. And just like that, the guy was already behind him, landing another hit. Ryuki blocks it, gets knocked backward, while the bastard says he won't be walking out of there with just a broken arm. Ryuki's shoulder, leg, and waist were already turning into blocks of ice. Even so, he keeps provoking the guy, asking, "Is that all you've got?" Crow charges again, and once more, Ryuki blocks him, laughing, saying, "It's pathetic that someone using a legendary sword can't beat some nobody." Crow then unleashes the full power of the sword. Now literally everyone around them had turned into ice statues. He charges again toward Ryuki, and honestly, I don't get it. One second, he looks desperate, but in the very next panel, he blocks it calmly and knocks Crow's hand away. That fake panicked expression? Yeah, it's messing with everyone, even Crow himself. But in that moment, his wooden sword broke. Even so, our boy was completely chill. As long as he had a little knife, he could still activate his skills. He triggers Meteor Strike, dashing in and slicing Crow. The clown hits the ground and Ryuki says he's sensing more items on him. And yeah, turns out Crow was also wearing black steel armor. He warns that the defense on that thing is perfect and none of Ryuki's attacks will be able to do a thing. Ryuki just replies, "You really enjoy suffering, huh? Would have been easier if you just gave up." And before Crow can say anything, Ryuki grabs him by the neck and plants his face into the pavement. Then he says, "This is the perfect chance to figure out how my powers work in the real world." Sometime later, he's using martial fists, just pummeling the guy on the ground. Crow can only remember Gabriel, calling him pathetic and saying he always planned to steal his account from the start. That's when he loses it, manages to land a kick, and sends Ryuki flying. Ryuki's shocked and Crow draws the sword and slashes him in half. Like, what the hell just happened? Crow says that he's aiming to reach the top even if he has to walk over a mountain of corpses to do it. He'll regain his status as a player and eventually rip everything Gabriel has away from him. And what did Ryuki do? He gave the guy the same drug back. Crow's there, delirious in the chair, asking how Gabriel feels now that he's been defeated. Later on, the police arrive and they find out that this was the place where the viruses and chips were being produced. Seeing all the bodies on the floor, frozen and doped up, they say, these idiots deserved it for getting involved with illegal tech. But of course, there are some corrupt cops too, right? Saying, shame they died. These guys used to pay us good money. Up on the rooftop, Ryuki says he never imagined those people would be smiling like that. Ivan comments that now, with those guys out of the game, Ryuki will definitely be hunted even more. Ryuki said it's all good. His only real concern was getting a like on that video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.